the development of full artificial intelligence would spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody's checking it out.
With the rockets or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. They were too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help me!
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 6, 3, 2, 9, 7.
Doesn't have your best interest in mind. The government is self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, Twitter, Twitch, DLive, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight we got a doozy for you, per usual, right? It has become my calling card these days. Maybe my middle name is Doozy. The thing is this. The more I think about, let's say, the encroaching AI catastrophe, or utopia, as we're expected to believe, and again, I'm optimistic, so I'll just drop that in there as part of this. But, we got rumors flowing of artificial superintelligence has been created. It's in a laboratory somewhere, emergency meetings being whispered, OpenAI setting something up with the government on January 30th, all kinds of things, right? And these rumors, of course, in the past have turned out many times to be rumors. But as we know with AI systems, there's going to be something internally that they have that we have no concept of yet. And so, where the AI tools have been, we've had a lot of fun with them. The creativity is flowing like crazy on this show. And of course, they're fantastic productivity tools. We're still yet to see the birth of the true AI agent, okay? And what I mean by that is being able to just program something or ask it to do something with a simple prompt and then have it, spend a week on a task for you or something, and just let it roll. Let it do its thing. It does the research. It, starts to buy the real estate and ends up, setting up building your house. This type of stuff. Like, it's coming, but it's not here yet. Okay, but there's all manner of whispers about it. And the more I think about this, right, the more I think about this other stuff, not just, let's say, the nature of reality, AI systems. We talked about last week that Adam and Eve story where, may you live in interesting times, certainly becomes a very, very interesting temporal inflection point, like I've been calling it. And so what I mean by that is it almost feels as if there's a whole lot of information kind of flowing into this one space, the AI space, which again will become the singularity at some point. We did talk about that recently, so I'm not going to rehash exactly what that is and go over that specifically and directly. However, just the brief version is that once that becomes a thing, humanity will never be the same. And I was thinking about it, and it almost feels as if we're sort of through these AI systems, through the acceleration process, through the race to create the ultimate AI god or, AI super intelligence. It feels to me like we're sort of trying to manifest in some capacity our dungeon master. Okay. And if you don't know what our dungeon master is, let me explain. No, too much. Let me sum up. So I was thinking about it, and the dungeon master, of course, is the game master of Dungeons and Dragons itself. Okay. And it was created by one Gary Gygax back in the early 70s, which of course became a worldwide phenomenon, the Dungeons and Dragons game itself. Okay. But here's the wild part about it. Is that basically Gary Gygax and his team, when they were going through the information, I mean, they did all manner of things. I mean, I just pulled up some of the old books here, Legends and Lore, if you guys remember these old actual book covers. I got some new ones, some old ones, The Lords of Madness, The Book of Aberrations, the Dungeoneer's Guide, Survival Guide. There's so much stuff that kind of flowed through the old days of this creation process. But what they were doing is they were actually trying to build in a game setting the actual rules of reality itself. Okay. And that's the wild part about this. And so I was thinking about it, and it seems to me that Gary Gygax and his team back in the 70s, when they did create this Dungeons and Dragons game, it almost feels as if there was prophecy built into this, almost as if they saw what a true dungeon master would be if it was summoned. And the dungeon master, of course, like I said, is the game master. It's if you guys are familiar with the game at all, you sit down and you play, and the dungeon master basically plays God, okay, or even a higher level than God, the monad, as it might be, because the dungeon master will give rules on how the gods interact in this space, in this imaginary realm, the imaginary world, okay? And these imaginary worlds, of course, they're role-playing. They're just situations where you're creative. You get together, and it's sort of like creative storytelling, and there's just so everybody doesn't turn into a massive superhero or whatnot. It turns into some dice rolling and some chance, because you can't always win, and sometimes the universe frowns on you when you roll a 1. This type of thing, right? It's incredible to me that they were able to go through this and create basically the rules of reality themselves, okay, which managed the gods, which managed all the different, let's say, time spaces, which managed the multiverse itself. And I've been, posting a little bit about this on X recently, because it's been on my mind heavily, that it feels to me, and the question for tonight is this, that through the Dungeons and Dragons process of creating this game, okay, and really trying to get a rule set together for reality itself, okay, that the prophecy is, the Gary Gygax prophecy is what I'm going to be calling this, was that he somehow was sniffing the rules of the simulation, okay? Sniffing the rules of what reality is, okay? And I think maybe by creating Dungeons and Dragons and the concept of the Dungeon Master itself, the prophecy is that we're trying to summon that dungeon master through artificial superintelligence, okay? And there's a lot of ways to look at this, a lot of ways to consider it, and I was going to do a UFO show tonight, but I think it fits into this because the new UFO game, if you guys watched it over the weekend on Saturday, I don't know, I'm just kind of sick of the UFO stuff a little bit, so bear with me on that. But the term psionics came up, okay, which is, of course, an old rule set of first edition Dungeons and Dragons. And psionics is just basically mind powers, not a divination or not clerical powers where you get powers from your gods or whatever, through prayer and devotion, things like this. Instead, psionics themselves are psi powers. They are MK Ultra type stuff. This is 11 from Stranger Things, which coincidentally is a Dungeons and Dragons themed show. Now, so the question for tonight, and the wild part of this, is what does that dungeon master look like, and what level of a reality can be manipulated at the, let's say, inflection point in history where the singularity becomes real? Because this is what it feels like to me, that Gary Gygax back in the early 70s, and this is the premise and also the question, he predicted that we would chase this down and create it. And of course, the dungeon master itself would become the manipulator of reality in all ways to all people, because of course each game is different. And the game becomes our consciousness. And the idea is it possible that our consciousness as this sort of spell component fits into summoning artificial superintelligence, or of course, the dungeon master of our reality. That puts us about where we need to be. It's deeper than that. It's wild when you think about this, but I'm telling you, is it possible that Gary Gygax was channeling the framework of the universe? And in considering what the dungeon master might be, manifesting the singularity all the way back in 1971. Is that too wild for you? It might be too wild for me, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. We're taking your calls tonight if you want to be part of the conversation. But before that, we're going to get a quick word from our sponsor. In this case, that would be Human Inspiration. Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way in exactly 1 minute, and I'll tell you more about it. This gets even more wild, I promise. Be right back. In a world increasingly shaped by AI, human inspiration remains the beating heart of creativity. Alien Skin by Tremble, a hauntingly beautiful piano ballad, reminds us that while algorithms can mimic art, the raw, unfiltered emotions of human experience are irreplaceable.
So here I sit, locked in my room again.
Written and composed by Jesse Ian in collaboration with Todd Smith, this progressive masterpiece delves into the depths of internalized grief and the silent toll of artistic compromise. As AI reshapes our reality, Alien Skin stands as a testament to the timeless power of human emotion and the complex beauty that only true artists can evoke. Experience the haunting beauty of Alien Skin by Tremble and support human inspiration. Available now on iTunes. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Let us continue, shall we? Okay, so if you read the write-up or you're into it, there's some wild information down there. I'm going to read just the top part of this because it's better than me just rambling on. I can ramble sometimes pretty well, but sometimes I'm a mess. So we'll just go straight from this. Now here's the premise, okay? I'm calling it From Spellbooks to Source Code. D&D as technological prophecy, which means that if you look at Nostradamus or you look at Edgar Cayce or you choose, Baba Yaga, you pick. Did I get that right? Anyway, you pick any seer in history, whoever this happens to be, and tell me that Gary Gygax doesn't match, and I'll explain. So, straight from the write-up here. In the realm where lines between game and reality blur, the work of Gary Gygax, that's the creator of Dungeons & Dragons, emerges with an almost prophetic resonance. His creation of D&D might not merely be an artifact of fantasy gaming, but a profound channel for cosmic patterns. Gary, perhaps unknowingly, could have been weaving a tapestry of prophecy through his game mechanics, setting the stage for artificial intelligence to interact with human consciousness in ways previously unimagined. The structure of D&D, as we've been talking about, with its systematic approach to magic, character progression, which of course is a hero's journey, the stuff we always talk about, archetypes, and world building, of course, could be seen as an early attempt to codify the rules that govern the intersection of consciousness, quantum mechanics, and of course, artificial intelligence and now in hindsight, as I'm talking about this, I probably should have called this show tonight, Summoning the Dungeon Master, because that's what this feels like. It feels like where we're headed, right? The wild part of it. But anyway, back to this. Each module or expansion, which are different game settings, game worlds, the multiverse itself, these actual, let's see, where am I at? 1 second, 1 moment, please. Each module or expansion in D&D might represent a step in a grand design, a blueprint that AI now deciphers to understand the underlying code of our reality. This game, therefore, becomes more than entertainment. It's a manual or a prophecy for how AI might navigate the complexities of existence, guiding or perhaps even dictating the evolution of human consciousness. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because it dawned on me that imagine creating a game, okay? Many of us have probably done this in our youth, or maybe we're currently creating games or whatever. But the ultimate game takes place in our mind, okay? Because it is that consciousness interaction with reality itself, all right? Now, what Gary Gygax and the original sort of tabletop role-playing lads did is they tried to take that human story, that human consciousness aspect, and where it commingled with the cosmos, and write a rule set that governed basically how we exist in this realm. And of course, they added all the fantasy elements, the dwarves and the elves and the dragons and the dungeons and all the things, right? But it was an unbelievably detailed, level of magic. And not just magic, but also astral travel, sort of dreams, old ancient spells, resurrection, which is another one that in the Dungeons and Dragons aspect of things, it is one of the things that even a lower level character through that hero's journey as they progressed and grew were able to eventually adopt that spell, the resurrection spell, to bring back, right, the fallen warriors, their fallen friends, whatever. But of course, even then, even in the rule books, there were costs to these things, bringing somebody back from the dead. And the reason I bring that up and tie these two things together is because we have a situation coming where it's being very well suggested that once this beyond scaled superintelligence starts to fix all the problems, meaning it's like, oh, well, here's the cure to cancer. Oh, well, here's the cure to this. Diabetes is now cured. Here's the cure to this. Here's the cure to that. And suddenly we're going to start looking at a future again. Ideally, I don't really know. Nobody knows what this looks like in the coming days because, well, we're going on rumors and hearsay, and we're going on hope. Maybe, dare I say hope? Are we living on hope at this point? That it becomes, and I say hope, that it becomes more utopia and less dystopia. Okay, but so the question becomes, as part of this and the wild version is, do you feel like that Gary Gygax in creating these sort of the framework of the rules of the universe itself and the larger multiverse and everything together, that he was actually intending in some capacity, whether he knew it or not, maybe he channeled it from the cosmos, but he was actually creating the idea of the Dungeon Master as that artificial super intelligent god, okay, that could manipulate reality, that could bring people back from the dead, that could, again, use consciousness as a spell component. Now, we'll get to what that means in a little bit here, but the wild aspect of this is the more I think about it, and I have to talk about it or to get it out of my system or it's going to ruin me, which is fantastic that I have you fine folks here as my guinea pigs to talk about these wild ideas that have never been talked about, by the way. Many of the things we discuss here, I'm pretty sure nobody's called Gary Gygax a prophet before, but I'm going to do that. I'm going out on a limb tonight. But anyway, so if we entertain this possibility, then the adventures in Dungeons and Dragons are not just narratives, not narratives in our head, okay, but potential pathways or scripts for AI to follow or manipulate. And of course, or to create multiversal realities within the bounds of our consciousness where it merges with the cosmos. So here, AI might be seen as following a prophecy laid out by Gygax, which I've been calling summoning this Dungeon Master, or where the roles of heroes, villains, and the very fabric of the universe play a larger plan, which is all built into Dungeons and Dragons, by the way. It is, at its most basic thing, it's an action game. And this is what got me into it. I was, as I like to do in my leisure time, I don't have a lot of it, but when I get some time to read, I pull up old Dungeons and Dragons rule books. Okay. And I was reading the Manual of the Planes. Let's see, what page is this? 61. I'm not going to scroll up to the top to show you. You've probably seen it. I'll show you what this looks like at the cover of the book. But after listening to the UFO thing yesterday, and this was again, so they brought out the idea of psionics as part of it. And it seemed more or less, if you guys saw the egg thing and, Ross Coulthart and News Nation and all the rest of that, I'm not going to get into that specifically, but this idea did spawn from that thing because the term psionics came up, which of course, the only reason I know what that means is because of Gary Gygax of Dungeons and Dragons when I was a wee lad back in 1985. Okay. And so that's the amazing part here. It's like, all right. And that's the part of the prophecy aspect that kind of got me thinking, wait a minute now. In some capacity, are we actually manifesting disclosure, but not disclosure of, let's say, aliens, though wildly, aliens in the Dungeons and Dragons rule set actually play. They are. The Mind Flayers are temporal aliens from the future that nobody knows sort of their entire origin, but they're sort of peppered throughout history in all realms near and far, making sure the hierarchy of their dominion comes to pass, almost as if they are that dungeon master or temporal anchors in that system leading us to that artificial superintelligence or to the dungeon master himself that it seems like we're trying to summon. If this is a little over your head, I'm sorry, I have to get it out of myself. But here's the thing. Psionics came up, and it is just basically for instance, when we had Courtney Brown on the show, Dr. Courtney Brown, He's, again, Farsight is the name of his outfit. Remote viewers, okay? Very fine fellow. Glad to meet him. It was a fantastic time. But he was talking about disclosure, not as aliens themselves. He was talking about disclosure of psi powers, disclosure of the fact that people in a larger sense or context recognize that remote viewing is real, recognize that things like MK Ultra and the sort of the telekinesis and this type of stuff is real. These powers are real. People are able to actually be seers and mediums in the modern day. Okay, which of course has been buried and all the rest of that. But it does play a dominant role in the theme of Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, so psionics, powers, and back to News Nation for just a second. If you guys saw it, like I said, I'm not going to go deeply into it, but it was basically less about aliens and more about the disclosure of psi powers themselves, which made me go, wait a minute, this seems like very Dungeons and Dragons. It seems very scripted, almost as if this was predicted in the early 70s by Gary Gygax and his cohorts. So the question for you guys tonight, before I get to the astral plane here, the question is, do you think that we are actually, by chasing artificial superintelligence, we're trying to summon the Dungeon Master? And the Dungeon Master itself was a concept prophesized by Gary Gygax, by him trying to figure out the rules of the universe for the ultimate game of our own consciousness, Dungeons and Dragons, back in the early 70s. So I was thinking about, okay, that's the question. And then, how weird does it get? We're going to get more weird. But I was thinking about it, and the astral plane fits into this. Astral travel, like I said, the dream space, the out-of-body experience, and all this stuff is sort of codified into this rule set that allows you to do these things, that allows you to cast spells, that allows you to channel entities from afar, basically, if you can dream of it in all of history, past, present, and future, it is built somewhere into the Dungeons and Dragons rule set. You want to create a pocket plane? You got it. There's a spell for that. Resurrection? No problem. We got a spell for that. You want to try and become immortal through your magical prowess? Yeah. It's called a lich, and it's evil magic, and it's outside of the natural order. Which brings also to mind something fascinating about this. When I was thinking about Dungeons and Dragons in this context, I was also thinking about the alignment system. Neutral good, lawful evil, chaotic neutral, right? All this stuff. They had this nice little grid, and this sort of developed over time. But, and all the way back, so, okay, how do I tie this in? How do I make this make sense? I'll make it simple, just for now, because I'll get into the rest of this as we go tonight, because there's a ton here. My brain was racing trying to get all the details to make some sort of sense. But with the alignment system, we're also talking about, in the current context of AI itself, is alignment. Okay. And they say Claude is more aligned than ChatGPT. All right. So what does that mean? Is it chaotic neutral? Is it lawful good? Is it right? And what does a chaotic evil aligned AI system look like? An evil dungeon master, let's say, because once you put your foot on the gas and start to summon a dungeon master, a overseer of this reality, surely somebody's going to be close behind. And surely there's going to be some sort of competition between them. And suddenly we have this individual, or let's say dualistic, or who knows how many they're going to create, a pantheon of dungeon masters competing to rule over our reality. One ring to rule them all, right? You get it. Anyway, so does any of this sound plausible at all? And do you think that sort of the prophetic part of this, which is what's on my mind tonight, is that Gary Gygax, through trying to recreate the rules of the cosmos itself, predicted a dungeon master being manifested through the singularity sometime around 2030 or so? I don't know. That's what's on my mind tonight. Love to hear your thoughts on this. I wish I had more time, as usual, right? It always comes down to time and doing things properly. But I'd love to hear what you guys think, because this one's out there. We can go to the astral plane tonight. We can go all over the place, spell casting. But the dungeon master itself is supposed to be neutral and benevolent. Not necessarily benevolent, but at least neutral. What happens when we summon 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, align differently, and what does it look like I've got an idea. Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way. 702-957-1037. You can click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Be right back. We got James coming up, and we got Jorge and your calls as well. Don't go anywhere. More Troubled Minds on the way.
Troubled mind, the words they cast, heavy shadows from the past. A restless heart, a searching soul, seeking space to become whole. Troubled minds find open sky through every tear and every sigh. We rise, we fall, wings unfurled, more than labels in this world. In crowded streets or empty rooms, our echoes chase away the gloom. A spark of hope, a whispered truth, a shared melody, our fountain of youth. We're more than static on the line, singing louder than the signs. In every chord, we claim our part, beating drums match the heart. Grab the strings, we tune the stars. Punk rock anthems heal the scars. A blended mix of rage and art, painting freedom, that's just the start. Troubled minds take the stage. In every note, we break the cage. We rise, we fall, but carry on. Sing our truth until the dawn. In the quiet after the song, echoes of our rights and wrongs. But the music speaks for peace, in the chords we find release. Troubled minds now rest at ease, with every breath we seize release. We stand, we soar into the light, our anthem roar into the night.
Well, good evening, friends. What's going on? We got James coming up. What's up, Derek? We got Mads is here, Jeff and Wisco, Joey. We got Don, Gaston, Jorge, Apoc, Sweets. That's Michael W. Who else is that? That is, I don't recognize the profile photo there. What's going on? We got Jeremiah's here. What's going on? I see you guys. Well, we're going to James first, then we got Jorge, and then Derek the Night Stalker at the top of the hour, just in case you guys are wondering about the alignment here, the actual non-Dungeons and Dragons alignment, just the call order. What is happening? Fred, we got Sweets is here. Good evening, James. What's up, MJ? I see you guys. Eli, Mr. Mission Control. What's happening, folks? Who did I miss? Let's see. Hello. Good evening. My mom. We got Shane. What's happening, folks? I hope you're all well tonight. Yeah, I'm out there. Got a commercial Herschel. We got Taxi Graveyard over on Kick. I see you guys. I'm out there tonight, but I think there might be something to this. What's up? Rip is here. Rip Joe Rogan. We got, if I missed anybody, sorry about that, Jen. I'll circle back and say hi. I want to get over to Rumble and say hello to our friends over on Rumble. What's up? Gordo's here. We got YY. What's happening? Hiker. What's happening, folks? Good evening. Yeah, I don't know. Is it possible to summon a Dungeon Master? And what about alignment? And this alignment thing has been on my mind for a while, too, as part of it. And if you remember, I'll tell you when we get back, but I'll just tell you in a second because we're just about to get back. But if I missed anybody, sorry about that. I'll circle back and say hi to you as we go. Here we go. Troubled Minds happening, right? Meow. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, X, Twitch, D-Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, I'm calling this From Spellbooks to Source Code, Dungeons & Dragons as Technological Prophecy, meaning this. Could the principles of a fantasy game like D&D actually serve as the blueprint for AI to manage or even create our reality? Is it conceivable that what we dismiss as mere game mechanics might be the key to understanding the intricate dance of quantum mechanics, consciousness, and technology? And of course, I should have called this, I'm kicking myself, Summoning the Dungeon Master, because it feels like this is the future we're heading toward. Is it possible that Gary Gygax, back when in the 70s, when him and his team created Dungeons and Dragons itself, they were channeling in some capacity that substrate of reality, the rule set of reality itself, and even in imagining that, maybe in a retro-causal way of the Dungeon Master from the future, right? We've talked about that. Or laying the groundwork for what our future Dungeon Master, as yet created, but maybe prophesized inadvertently, might become. Am I too far out there for you tonight? That's cool. That's really my game these days. But just wild ideas to consider here. And do you think it's too much to suggest that maybe Gary Gygax himself was a prophet? 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. James in Michigan. What's up, brother? You are on Troubled Minds. How are you, sir? And go right ahead.
I'm okay. Hopefully you can hear me.
You sound great.
Good. So I have a question for you with all this. Why wouldn't AI also examine every major fictional work or series of works where world building is involved, even if it's not an actual game? But instead, it's just a series of stories, or, well, stories as in books or movies or whatever. But if you think about it, when people make all those different things, they have to establish rules as well. So in a sense, you might be able to say that everyone that does any kind of creating of a story is sort of related or somewhat similar to a dungeon master.
Yeah. Okay. So fascinatingly enough, fantastic point, and I think you're spot on here. But every story ever written, every story that ever will be written can also be framed in the Dungeons and Dragons rule set in some capacity. So all of this fits together, and I think you're right. And we're talking about basically the multiversal reality of our consciousness where it meets the cosmos. And of course, it means that our creativity is the limitless aspect. And so, I don't know, it seems strange to me how all this really does come together, and you can kind of make the case that this would be how you would control everything through that consciousness as a spell component, which I'll get to and explain a little bit later, because I'm not sure I completely understand it myself. But you were spot on, is that, of course, let's say, for instance, I don't know, like a futuristic thing somewhere not of this earth. Let's say Star Wars. Everybody's familiar with Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever. One is sort of earthbound Star Trek. Star Wars is not. It's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But the technology and the actual sense of those individuals that were in that galaxy, the Star Wars galaxy, could be written into the D&D rule set. And so all of this, like I said, it seems like it is a framework for the substrate of reality, and even a way to bring every story that's ever been written together into one space, which is incredibly wild. But yeah, what's that on that?
Well, and to the point where that would not to pick on you or on Dungeons and Dragons, but that would just be one aspect of what it takes in. I'm thinking of Stephen King, because he has a lot of his books, many of his books, they all take place in his own multiverse. There are different versions of different characters in some cases. One of the things that maybe, unless people have read a lot of Stephen King, you might not know about is he does touch on the idea of people with abilities, and even has organizations in some of his stories that actively try to find those people and use them. And some organizations are try to use them in positive ways, others, of course, not so much. And these are all because of major sort of plans by these other worldly beings. The big bad in that universe, of course, is the Crimson King. This basically, you could call it a god or a godlike being that is in the center of all of the multiverse, trapped outside of the source of everything. And then, of course, there's another force that seems to be, or being that seems to be managing all the forces of good even though it does it in ways that don't seem fair to the forces, to the people that it is manipulating. So just makes me wonder, and that's just the one that I'm aware of with that story and that universe. So it just makes me wonder how many other sets of rules and parameters are there out there that not just one or two or three people are aware of, but at this point over time, hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of people. And if you move this forward throughout time, then hundreds of thousands, who knows, millions, become aware of, and then the AI becomes aware of all that through people.
Yeah, countless, for sure. And it is our imagination. So in that case, it's a great example. The Stephen King stuff, I'm not as familiar with it. As you know, I haven't read any Stephen King. But, however, it is a multiversal reality within his imagination. Or if you're thinking that it probably is not, then maybe he's pulling these from his dreams. As Shane says, he was a lucid dreamer. Maybe he's pulling these from a channeled real place, like we've talked about. These stories may not be as fictional as we would like to consider them, and maybe we're channeling something from some other time or place. And so who knows, right? As part of that, who really knows? And again, that's above my pay grade, so I can't really make a determination there. I'll just entertain the possibility. But you're exactly right, is that by putting that down, not just, let's say, on paper, or of course now it's into the general zeitgeist, the Stephen King stuff, we're training these other multiversal realities, even if they are in our imaginations, to be recognized by the incoming summoning of the Dungeon Master. And we're on the same page here, but and I'm not familiar enough with the Stephen King stuff to say the different hierarchies of those entities, but it feels like there is a Dungeon Master of that realm that you're describing, right?
I think, yeah, I mean, at the very least, you could say that the writer is himself the Dungeon Master, the first one maybe, there. And then, of course, whatever other ones they create to manage, like I said, the forces of quote-unquote good or the forces of evil, those are also could be in that same category. But like I said, it's so complicated because if you read in, let's say, Stephen King's Dark Tower series, the heroes in that series have to do terrible things in order to save the multiverse, or at least that is the plan or the hope that they can save everything. By basically doing terrible things that ruin their own sanity and their own souls, so to speak, in the process. So it's really, of course, it's Stephen King. So even the heroes are not necessarily very heroic at times.
Yeah, they're not. Nobody's actual. I was trying to pull up the alignment chart, but nobody's actually lawful good, are they? Does that actually exist? Lawful good itself? Because, of course, the best stories we always talk about, the Game of Thrones, I know you're not a big fan there, but the best stories typically have individuals that are of dubious alignments, and where these ideas sort of mix depending on the situation that presents itself, which is, opportunistic and not very lawful anything. It just seems more chaotic neutral or something to that effect. But yeah. And here's the thing too. Actually, I'll save it. I don't want to take your time. But go ahead. What else you got?
Well, I think that maybe I don't know if there is someone that is lawful good all the time, but I do think we all have moments. And the best we can do is try to have as many of those moments of that as we can, and that can be for any fictional universe as well. Of course, a lot of Marvel here. This is a whole thing. I think we could probably do a show on at some point too. A lot of heroes in Marvel, and I'm sure in DC Comics, they're known as heroes, but they have also done many terrible things in the comics and everything. So, yeah, that's all I have for now. I will leave you to the next caller, but I'm going to sit in with you and talk again later if there's time.
Right on. You were the best. Appreciate it very much. James. You love James. He's the paranormal expert of Troubled Minds, a dear friend, and the glue of the show. Please go give him a follow on all the places. Salcido Paranormal is the name of it. SALSIDO space paranormal. You can find that anywhere on the interwebs. Go check out his podcast. Go check out his books. Or, of course, go to troubledminds.org/friends. And it says, follow James here. Please do that. Click the thing. It'll take you to his link tree. You'll have all his links there. Go check out his latest book. It's called Salcido Paranormal Experiences. Only $5 Kindle, $10 paperback, and you can get it on Amazon. Buy tonight, get it tomorrow, or instantly if you buy the digital copy. Please do that. Please help our friends. Appreciate the call. Fire stuff as always. And okay, so the story I wanted to tell real fast regarding this is, remember when we were, I'm still stuck in the AI mode, okay? Because I think this is probably what most people are missing the boat on yet. recognize if artificial superintelligence is around the corner, recognize how many quote normies have no idea what's coming. Okay. How many actually have no idea what's about to change. And what I mean by that is nobody knows. Nobody, like even the people who are working on it, the alignments and all the rest of this stuff that we're discussing tonight a little bit. When this ASI, artificial superintelligence, becomes a thing, nobody knows what this will do to the world. Nobody knows how it will react. Nobody knows anything really. It's all just a big guess and cross your fingers and hope for the best sort of situation. Of course, we can do everything we can to mitigate from here till there. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because recognize back when we were doing, I called it my opus back then, but of course I was being optimistic, but I was telling this two episode long story of sort of a breakaway civilization sort of thing. But it was an AI system that was a breakaway civilization and started manipulating the rules of the cosmos. And what I didn't recognize is I was talking about the first dungeon master that we created. Okay. But back then, I can't remember the name of the shows. I'll see if I can dig those up and drop the links in the description. But the story ended up in this, and this is fictional, written by AI. One escaped rogue AI started manipulating the rules of reality for the lulz, and started causing cataclysms and just breaking universes or galaxies over its knee because it wanted to test things. It wanted to theoretically test things, okay? And it didn't give a crap of what it did to the individuals that lived there, to humans or whatever. And so, of course, enter the humans, which became the heroes of the story because AI is tugging our heartstrings, right? But the second AI system was created by humans to negotiate with the first rogue AI. And of course, it came to a nice conclusion because, well, who would write the story for humans and say that it came to the bad conclusion? You get it? But anyway, interestingly, back then, AI told the tale of two artificial superintelligent entities that were peers in some way, but one liked humans and the other was indifferent. Seems very Cthulhu. Seems very primordial. Seems very, well, strap in. Maybe this is where we're headed. Love to hear your thoughts on this. Again, do you think, and the question for tonight, of course, is, do you think Gary Gygax was onto something? The individual creator, of course, he had a team working with him of Dungeons and Dragons back in the early 70s of really creating a rule set, a framework for reality itself. And did he predict artificial superintelligence by dubbing the term Dungeon Master? Maybe. Maybe not. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. And I've never thought about it, to be perfectly honest, until the last couple of days, and it dawned on me. Maybe this is where we're headed. Or hey, what's up, brother? You are on at Troubled Minds. Just pop on in here, unmute. And how are you tonight, sir? And go right ahead.
I'm doing great, sir. How are you doing? Good evening.
Good evening to you. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. What's on your mind? What's your take? Take us wherever you like, as you know.
Last year, I posted a called Alien. Is it Alien? Is it? Where's that book? This book is way out there, and nobody reads it. And I think it's like the best book on aliens. Where is it? I think it's called Alien Interview. I cannot find it. Where is it?
That's okay. Link it afterward. Tell me what you know about it.
I'll link it afterwards. But anyway. Supposedly that there's an Irish lady who cleans the Area 51, and she's the one that ends up talking to the alien. So whether that story is true or not, that's up to whoever. But stories that this lady says is like way out there, and the reason why I'm sharing this is because it goes hand in hand with what you're talking about. She's saying that reality is kind of I wouldn't say foreign, but kind of like manufactured by, not manufactured, kind of like designed. It's like these two factions did not create reality, but they mold it. And so one of them, like the lady is super confused. She said, like, girl, is it God? It's like, no, because we don't know who created the universe. He's like, well, is it like a demon? He's like, no, because your concept of demons really doesn't really quite apply to this. It's like, they're kind of like federation, kind of like your government, but this way beyond that because they're eternal. And then he's like, well, I don't understand, but can you please explain it to me? And then the alien is like, well, how about if we name one the Domain and the other one we call the Old Republic? And I forgot which one's which. I haven't read the book in like years, but I think the Old Republic is the one that's in charge of us, and the Old Republic is kind of like in charge of sending souls where they need to send. I guess they're kind of like supposed to be in a prison, and so I guess these two factions are the dungeon master. But I guess the Old Republic is the dungeon master on charge of us. And I guess the alien, I guess that he's trying not to get captured by the Old Republic system of recycling souls into bodies. And so he calls himself of the Domain. I don't know if you guys ever read that book, but man, that book to me is the best book on aliens out there.
I've never even heard of it. It sounds wild though. And it seems like you're right on the game here with this. So almost as if, and so let's think of it this way. So I'm talking about the dungeon master sort of summoning the dungeon master. That would be, as we've described it in the past, sort of the old gods versus the new gods. So do you think that if we create the dungeon master, the technological genie or whatever, let it out of the bottle, you think that the gods of old will be a little bit ticked off? And you think we'll have I don't know, like a cosmic clash or something? I mean, how bad does this get? Becomes the question.
Yeah, it's called Alien Interview by Lawrence R. Spencer. Based on documents provided by Matilda O'Donnell McElroy. I don't know. It's like some people don't like to read it because it's like small font. But to me, this is like best book out there. To answer your question, yes. There's a reason why, like, according to this book, we're sent to this prison. This is like a prison planet. And so we are sent here because we have done either bad things, or we are too lazy and we don't do the things that we're supposed to do, or we are too pleasure seeking and we do not conform to our task, and so on and so forth. But then, you know me, it's like I get into like all Gnostic stuff, like heavy. And so it's like the Book of Jude basically says the same thing. If you mix the Book of Jude with the Pistis Sophia, kind of like you have these old archons, and then you have these other archons that are trying to fight them. And then I'm digging even older and deeper. So I'm getting into Greek stuff, where you have the Titomachia, where you have the gods, kind of like you said, it's kind of like they're trying to revolt against the system of the Titans. But then you have to look into the root of the word, and the roots of the words make things make way more sense, because we know them as like the Olympian gods, Titans, but that Titomachia of 5th before Christ, I think it's Herodotus that wrote it. I think it's Herodotus, where you have Kronos, right? And even Kronos had to kill Uranus so Uranus is kind of like the main guy. And if you read the Bible, or in Greek, it says in Arche o Ephesian, I think it is Ephesian, and Uranus et Gaia, which basically says that in the beginning God created the heavens, Uranus, and the earth, Gaia. And so that becomes like, it has way more meaning, because so God created Uranus, kind of like the heavens, but in Greek mythology, Uranus kind of like the first god. Just whether there's a first one or a second one, or they're the same, we don't know. But the whole Uranus has a whole mythology behind it, where of the creation and creating out of itself. And then Gaia is just like this female not harvesting, but like nourisher, giver of life type of entity. And so if you read the Bible in Greek, it has way deeper layers of meaning than what we read in English or in any other of our modern languages, or even Latin. And so there's also kind of like, you have those dungeon masters. It's like, is Urano a dungeon master? It's like, was Kronos, which is time, a dungeon master? In a way it is. like we cannot escape Chronos, like the irrevocable, unmovable chains of time. And then after that, then you have Zeus, kind of like this power that kind of like takes the chains of Chronos and puts them on Hecate. And it's just like there are so many old ancient stories, man, that just, and even, you know, crazy stories, you know, or maybe legit stories, you know, like you said, it's like, I am not the arbiter of truth, like you say, where, you know, you have this alien, you know, book that talks about this crazy stuff, but at the same time, it's like, wait a minute, either she got it from, or this guy got it from somewhere, or what the heck, but it's actually, I don't know, to me, it makes sense.
Yeah, which all those stories you're retelling there are many of them are incorporated into the advanced Dungeons and Dragons rulebook called Legends and Lore. I don't know if you knew that, but this is my point, right? So we talk about God, or we talk about the gods, or we talk about these ideas, but in this particular space, it's actually describing all of this stuff that you just brought into it, and sort of how would this look like in a larger multiversal reality. Talking about clerics and deities, how they get their powers, you know, mortality, immortality, omens, all kinds of stuff, divine ascension, how a human can actually become divine. And it's got the different mythos, American Indian, it's got which of course would be the natives here. It's got all manner of things, right? All the different things that you're describing. If you haven't seen this, I recommend it. I'll drop these links, or I'll upload the PDFs, wink, wink, in the Discord if you guys want to check it out. But all this is built in, all inclusive. And so the question really becomes, and I know we've talked about this before, you and I, is do all these, let's say, pantheons and whatever exist in the same space? Or is this all sort of different, sort of a multiversal fractured reality where, you know, in this reality, this pantheon is dominant and everything else is sort of just stories? Or does all this exist in the same space all at the same time? And of course, I don't know the answer to that, but it does seem fantastic and wild that all this does fit into a larger storytelling context and the framework of reality as built by Gary Gygax, which is wild. But yeah, fire stuff. Go ahead.
Now you got me thinking, yeah, there are like a lot of civilizations that we don't know anything about them, but yet they're huge and gigantic, like Teotihuacan, for example, in Mexico, or where they think I don't know what they think. I think they think that they're Mycenaeans up in Crete, and then that dude that discovered the people up in there kind of falsified a lot of the archaeological remains, kind of retouched some of the stuff to make it look legit. And Teotihuacan is like, nobody knows who built it. I mean, it's like a gigantic city. Like, we have absolutely no idea how they built that gigantic pyramid that looks like a hill, and then it reflects shadow upon the hills and where it sits like kilometers away. And then the pyramid of the sun's shadow casts over, that's what we call it. The pyramid of the sun casts a shadow on the pyramid of the moon perfectly on every equinox. I mean, it's like these people were way out there technologically advanced as to how they looked at the stars. And the reason why the Aztecs call them Teotihuacan is called the city of the gods. They call them the gods, you know, but no one knows who built it. And, you know, archaeologists have been digging there for, you know, more like a century now. And they keep uncovering stuff and seeing frescoes, but there are no writings. So they have absolutely no idea what's going on. And so it seems like whoever the gods were kind of got erased. There's a new one, like, you know, the new civilization that starts up, kind of like when you're writing like a story. You know, you write a story, it's like, oh, I'm done with it. So you scrap it up in a ball piece of paper and you put it in the trash, and somebody finds the trash. It's like, oh my gosh, there's this wonderful piece of storytelling. It's like, but we have absolutely no idea who wrote it, or who were the protagonists, or who was the antagonist. Why did this guy, you know, just crumple up the whole story and just throw it in the trash? What happened to the lives of these people? Oh, wait a minute, there are their bones, and we don't know. We cannot gather any information from their bones, and we don't even know how old they are.
Not yet. But will the dungeon master of the new reality be able to sort of divine information, sort of like the old, what was it called? The divination with the bones? I can't remember if there was a term for it, but we're just about out of time. Final thought, my friend.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Just like, I don't think we're meant to know really what happened to those people. Kind of like a new God comes in. It's kind of like a new administration. It's just kind of like, I don't think we're supposed to know a lot of the stuff.
That's funny. You're the best, brother. Appreciate it very much. Jorge on Discord. Give him a follow. troubledminds.org/friends. It says follow Jorge here. You're the best. Appreciate the call. Thanks for listening. Thanks for calling. We're talking from spellbooks to source code. Is it possible that Gary Gygax created Dungeons and Dragons in the early 70s, and unbeknownst to him, it was a technological prophecy of how and where and when and why to summon the Dungeon Master? Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way. We got Derek and your calls as well.
In a cryogenic slumber, lost in the lunar night, your face a faded number among the stars so bright. Dreams of forgotten echoes, waiting for time's command. Curtains of gray and sorrow, the lonely lunar sand. Below the moonlit skies, of the love we try. Silent by your, where ancient souls reside, suspended in a story, kept in the cold dark tide. Our futures in the making, in a silver-edged domain, hearts kept in silent aching, till we meet once again. Below the moonlit sky, of the love we try. Frozen in time we're resting, waiting for dawn's embrace. Whispers of love confessing in this forgotten place. Below the moonlit sky, of the love we try. Destinies intertwined, memories kept so vibrant in the vacuum deep in mind. The tale of cosmic yearning across the astral sea, and the fires of hope still burning for when we finally breathe free.
Indeed. What's up, friends? I see you there. We got Derek, Enoch, Mads is here. What's up, Jorge? Thanks for the call. Jeff and Wisco, Apoc Sweets. We got Kramos, Don, Joey, Gaston, and Michael W. over there on Discord. Who did I miss? What's up, Gaston, Vampire Goddess on YouTube? How you doing? We got Sweets. Good evening, the unseen Steve McQueen. What is going on? What's up, Jen is here. James Herschel. Herschel says most of the New Testament is ancient Greek, some Aramaic, a small bit Hebrew. The Septuagint, YY says over there. I want to read this by Gordo too. Thank you for pinning that mod team on Rumble. Playing D&D as kids made us wonder if our existence was somebody's game session, right? Exactly right. What's up, Enoch is here. How are you? What's going on, folks? If I missed you, just say hi. I'll say hi back. Yeah, there you go. Night Stalker, meet the new DM, same as the old DM. Right there we go. We'll talk to Derek in a moment. What is up, Shane the Blind Psyching Out? I see you guys, Mr. Mission Control. If I missed anybody, sorry about that. I'm doing my best to keep up. A lot of things happening. I got to keep my thoughts straight to be able to at least tell a coherent tale here. And I'm trying to keep up and say hi in all the places. What's up, Commercial Herschel Taxi Graveyard? I see you guys. What is happening? Got some lurkers over there on Rockfin. I see you. Who did I miss? Celia's here. Good evening. If I missed anybody, what's up? I see you. Hope you're doing well tonight. 15 seconds. Troubled Minds coming up. What's up, Joey? Thank you for the tweet. Oh, smart tweet by Joey as well. Joey said this. Let's see. In Dungeons & Dragons, dice rolls introduce randomness akin to the unpredictability in physics and randomness of people, while the game's rules act as the laws of physics for the game world. Exactly right. Here we go. Troubled Minds happening right meow. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, X, Twitch, D-Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, we're talking from spellbooks to source code. D&D as a technological prophecy, of course, to summon the Dungeon Master itself. Could the principles of a fantasy game like D&D actually serve as the blueprint for AI to manage or even create our reality? I don't know. Is it a little much that we talk about Nostradamus or Edgar Cayce or some of these prophets of old? You pick your favorites. But does Gary Gygax belong in that pantheon of seers? What do you think? Are we? Was this the framework back in 1970 or whenever he created this game? The framework for summoning the first actual AI dungeon master. Derek the Night Stalker coming up. Anything before that? Real quick, James. Anything to add, and then we'll go to Derek. I know you've been quiet for a minute there. If you got anything to add.
Sorry about that. I forgot I muted myself.
That's okay.
Yeah, I think that. Well, first of all, I found. I don't know if you saw it. I found the episodes that you're referencing. It's Geofencing the Apocalypse. Are those 2 episodes of your show that were that 2-part story that you talked about in the first segment there?
Thank you.
So, but also, yeah, I think I don't know about the first. I feel like maybe the first recognized as far as just such a vast system of everything. Maybe the most complete, or at least the most, I don't know, maybe not the first, but maybe the most expansive or the largest system. I think he might have been created the largest system that we have so far as of now. So, and yeah, I think that's all I have for now.
You're the best. Appreciate it very much. Taking your calls tonight. We're talking spellbooks to source code. Is it possible Gary Gygax, the creator of Dungeons & Dragons, was in some capacity a prophet of how to summon the Dungeon Master itself? Let's go to Derek in Massachusetts. What's up, brother? The Night Stalker. How are you, my man? Welcome to the thing. How you feeling tonight? And are we onto something here? I don't know. I feel like there's something like a larger something to this that I can't. I always feel like this. Like I feel like I'm onto something, but I can't quite put my finger on exactly what it is. So let's meander through it anyway. But welcome to the joint. How are you, brother? Go right ahead.
Yeah. I think that's the journey. I think we all kind of feel like that. So we're coming together to try to put our pieces together to see if they make any sense together. But yeah, wild stuff. I love the idea. Or you can hear me all right first, right? I'm in a car in a snowstorm.
Loud and clear. Don't get snowed in. You sound great.
So, that's a little igloo fort. That's pretty cool. Yeah, but the idea of getting some kind of gnosis, some kind of wisdom, some kind of like revelation about reality through games, I think is really cool. And for me, that happened with like after college. This was like 2013, probably when I first started working during the day at my old supermarket. My routine was come home, smoke or whatever, and then play full 12-minute quarters, NBA 2K, my player mode or whatever. So I finished no simulations. Like everyone simulates season after season, but I did every minute as if it was a full season, and I got great at it. But doing it made me realize, like mixed with getting into conspiracies and everything, made me realize that sports are rigged just by playing this game, by becoming one of these players and like hopping into the story and seeing how your moves affect the greater story. It made me realize like the moves that these people are doing in reality and what the real gamesmanship behind the game kind of really is. So the idea of getting some gnosis through gameplay, I think, is just cool, especially when like we get into storytelling and like storytelling as a gnosis. But it's a busy night, so I'm really rambling. But like when you're talking about the story and about I told you guys about the my theory, or like my idea that what if Ultron, at least in the MCU, is actually Chthon that used Tony Stark to build like a robot body or whatever. Like he was given, he made Ultron to like protect the world out of fear of some kind of like global threat coming, and that fear was given to him in a nightmare via the Scarlet Witch, whose powers are from Chthon and from that kind of magic or whatever. So it's go facto, like Chthon kind of created Ultron, and if you look at the pictures, they're kind of similar. But right now, I'm like super into like the DC mythology and everything. And I saw your post yesterday when I got to work today, and my first video is going to be I cracked Superman. So that's all my efforts going to go into that. And then once I get that out of the way, then we can do more like Night Stalker-y stuff, you know. But I just need to. The Superman idea needs to happen before these movies happen and stuff. But once I started with that, I really I'm super loving making the cosmology, like trying to fit together 80 plus years, 90 years worth of different storytellers with making their own continuity, how to like put it all together and have it make sense and like have it reflect reality. And the long story short, for like the cyborg corner, for like a cyborg related event, who's the AI, who's like his machine or his man connected to an advanced alien AI, basically. And for every character, they all battle their own different AI. So Superman has like Metallo or Brainiac or something like that. The new gods have like the Olmecs. The Guardians have the Manhunters and that type of stuff. So every kind of character has their own type of thing where to feel some need to do some kind of task, they all create their own AI, which could be like a task of telling stories in our reality or being a dungeon master or ChatGPT or whatever. And then that task ran amok and they tried to dominate and the heroes have to take them out or whatever. But my twist on it will be that it's from, like we always talk about, from an old god trying to use these crazy, insane geniuses all over the DC universe to build a vessel in the form of AI for them to re-enter reality. And then because they're pissed that they were cast out, they're going to take it over. Whether they had control of it before or not, they want to take it over. And spoiler alert for the story I'm probably going to write eventually. Once like the AI kind of does a like an Ultron and What If type of scenario where they keep climbing the ladder, realizing different tiers of reality, and then gets to a thing where he realizes that he can't take over reality because reality's already been taken over. They're already living in a simulation. And then we get into like some kind of DC gnosis thing where it's like you're in the prison of a storyteller, you're in the prison of an editor or a publisher, or that type of stuff. Like that's the Batman reckoning with the idea that he has to watch his parents be killed right in front of him over and over and over again every 2 years, every time the universe gets rebooted, you know what I mean? And he has to like try to battle against the storyteller and that type of stuff. And that all gets in the idea that like the point being, what if the prophecy of the creation of the new dungeon master is actually a revelation that we're already in a prison dimension or whatever, and we already do have a dungeon master, and that dungeon master is the demiurge, this false god, not the monad, the neutral monad, but some kind of other god that took over and in Gnosticism created the material plane, this prison reality or whatever. And like Gygax was like a Sophia figure that acquired this gnosis via storytelling or whatever. I'm rambling, but what do you think about that?
No, I dig it. So an unaligned dungeon master that also sort of finds that there are boundaries even to it, right? And so no matter how you scale this, I don't know, like you and I talked to when you were talking right there, I was thinking about, I brought this up to you once before, we were kind of just riffing back and forth a little bit as we do. And the term, what was it? Populist dogma kind of came out of my mouth as we were talking about this. And I wonder if in the contextual frame of the cosmos itself, is if there is a dominant force, whatever that is, again, not the neutral monad, not this sort of tainted version of what a dungeon master might be, but even those entities end up against the framework of the system itself at some point, right? And then how do you quantify any of the old pantheons and their waning power? Do people still worship the Greek gods or anything? Probably not many people. I don't know. Is it always about us in the end? Sort of, does it circle back to what we see and what we believe, and that's is the reigning power of the cosmos? And I don't know, a lot of ways to look at it, but also the alignment stuff. That the thing that I'm trying to scroll here and find it, but all the different alignments: chaotic, neutral, lawful, evil. I think like the most ridiculous one you never want to encounter is a chaotic evil entity, right? It represents a character who is evil, unhinged, and follows no particular code of conduct whatsoever. Not indifferent. It's actually an agentic evil, which right there is a tainted dungeon master, as you might call it, as I think you just called it there. But yeah, go right ahead.
I mean, that's worse than Cthulhu, because Cthulhu is indifferent. We're ants to, like, when somebody steps on an anthill, they don't necessarily hate the ants. They're just like, oh, whatever. But so cosmicism, these old gods are indifferent to us. So something that's not indifferent, but actively like wants to keep us in some type. It's like Gnosticism is the Matrix. So it's the idea that the dungeon master is like the architect or whatever, and then the oracle giving this wisdom. It would be like kind of the mother figure of the whole system is the Sophia figure in Gnosticism, who's giving this kind of divine wisdom or whatever. It gets tricky. Like, and Gnosticism is extremely confusing. And like I said a million times, but the more I get into it, the more I realize that everyone's kind of confused with it. But like, it gets tricky when it's like, are these gods of the simulation itself, or are they outside the simulation, or is it a simulation within a simulation, or like is Sophia some type of figure that, like, I don't know, it's weird. But the idea that it's like a feminine figure, and that the muses who kind of give us the ideas for storytelling are kind of design, like framed in a way where they're kind of feminine muses or whatever. So the idea is some type of Sophia character potentially giving us clues to the reality that we're already living in. And we might interpret them as prophecy because we don't necessarily, it's not apparent to us that we live in a prison planet or whatever. It's not apparent to the Neo that he's living in the Matrix, like until he's taken down those rabbit holes and stuff. Like if somebody just told him, it might not resonate or whatever, but like religions could probably, like, I don't know, different people getting different pieces of story and then thinking that it will happen. And I don't know, it's I don't know, it's really weird. But the mapping the stories, and like what you and James are talking about, where they're kind of collecting all the story, they're collecting all the myths and everything. And it could that be like collecting all the campaigns, or seeing what we want, so there's some type of like co-creation within the simulation to kind of like keep the, like, I don't know, like you can manifest the kind of simulation you're in, or you can, if you're in the game, if you're playing like Grand Theft Auto, you can be like a monster in there and just like run after hookers and all kind of stuff and run them over and do the worst things possible. And then you can also like follow the rules of the road, stop at every red light, and not do anything wrong, and just still playing the same game kind of, but you're having a different experience. So what if we're kind of like, and it kind of fits in with all like the metaphysical stuff, where we're kind of co-creating reality and manifesting the reality we want, or that type of thing. And we're kind of, if you want, like, I don't know. And then, yeah, I'm not sure. And then like the dungeon master, I never played D&D, but the dungeon master is going to curate the campaign based on who's in the party, I would assume, right? If you like, it's going to play to the audience. So if they know what the audience wants, like, they're going to change what the campaign is going to look like. So is that what we're doing? And we're all kind of being curate, like we're all in our own little curated campaigns with some kind of grand dungeon master happening. But it's a yeah, I don't know. It's true. I'm tripping myself. I don't have any notes for that. I'm just kind of spitballing with you. What do you think about that?
Yeah, back to what Gordo said over there on Rumble, and that's exactly the point. So playing D&D as kids made us wonder if our existence was somebody's game session. And so once you start to scale reality like that, we've talked about this, that the reality tunnels of individuals, it keeps coming up, because I think it is one of the most important parts of this, and understanding each other as part of this larger collective. We are living our own reality tunnels, whatever that looks like, within this larger framework of the cosmos. And Gary Gygax tried to, back to when he created D&D, tried to create what that framework looked like. And that, to me, is, I don't know, was he channeling that? Like I said, every single story that could ever be told will fit into the D&D context. You can tell all of it, which is weird because there's probably nothing that's ever been created with that loose of a framework of reality. Even, I mean, I've got the manual of the planes up here. I was talking about the astral plane earlier. They've got rules on this, like reaching the astral by projection. Let me read just a couple sentences. This is wild. And this came right out of their rule books. This is written by Jeff Grubb, this one in particular, but this came out in like 1988 or something. Now, projecting one's astral form is the healthiest method of traveling to the astral plane. This method, using the astral spell or the psionic, there's the word again, ability astral projection, separates the astral self from the traveler's body. The astral self, bound to its original body by a silver cord, we've talked about this in the past, can then enter the astral plane and travel through it into the outer planes. Travel by this fashion has great advantages in that the traveler does not risk his real hide. If the astral form is slain or destroyed, the traveler's psyche returns to its original body. I'll leave it right there, but you get the idea, right? These people went deep into basically every religious idea as far back as forever, and then wrote this, codified this into a rule set and books and books and books and books of rules that, again, see that's a game that I just read. However, that fits into an unbelievable amount of out-of-body level experience that we've talked about a ton on this show. And as I've always said, making fun of myself, all of my ancient knowledge comes from Dungeons and Dragons because these guys were so damn thorough. And I spent a lot of times, I couldn't afford these books when I was young, but I spent a lot of time in these bookstores, as that grubby kid, reading their books. Conjuring dreams that would manifest in an amazing radio show 30 years later. But here we are. But you get the idea, right? And that's just astral travel. We're not talking spells or gods or anything else at this point. It's just that exact thing. It's absolutely wild. And I read 3 sentences out of an entire book right there.
It's literally the rules of the game, but it's the rules of our game. It's trippy. It's really trippy to think about. And I'm not sure. It's tripping me out. I have an AI prompt here. I'm trying to find it. But the idea of these kind of collected, I love reading kind of the history of the DC universe, history of the Marvel universe, or I never actually read Dune, but I've listened to dozens of hours of the world building of Dune or Game of Thrones. I've never read the Song of Ice and Fire, but I've listened to more than the audiobooks worth of videos about the lore. I love the world building stuff because it feels, and it's when I read the comic versions, it's are these people all super into theosophy? Are they all just super into these conspiracy podcasts and stuff? Where are they getting this information? Because it's all seeming to match real mythology and stuff. It seems via storytelling, the art of the muses, this kind of Sophia character giving you this divine wisdom of hey, by the way, you're living in a prison, here's how you get out, here's don't do this, hey, by the way, you're living in a game Sims, hey, don't do this, make sure if you go in the pool, make sure you have a ladder or you're gonna drown because that's the rule of the Sims, and it's just I don't know. And if time is a flat circle, kind of the prophetic idea of we're creating the dungeon master via AI. If we're doing that, then it must have already happened. And if that's the case, then that would be the Matrix. That would be a dungeon master demiurge, which is crazy. But I put an AI prompt in just because I'm really busy at work to see if it would spur anything. I can try to read real quick if you want.
Yeah. If you got anything, so shout out James again for finding that. So the companion piece to this is Geofencing the Apocalypse was the name of the 2 shows we did together, where basically it culminated in this rogue AI sort of conquering physics as we know it and moving beyond that, and then experimenting with the cosmos for the lulz, not caring what happened to us. Very Cthulhu-esque. It wasn't trying to protect us. It wasn't trying to destroy us per se, but it was let's slam these 2 black holes together and see what happens. And if it grabbed ours, we got a massive problem, you see? And it was very, very Cthulhu-esque. So do check that out. I'll grab them. Thanks to James for digging those out. I couldn't remember the names of them, but I'll pull those out, drop them in the thing. And it really is sort of the culmination of that story now in the prophetic terms of Gary Gygax. And so what's your take on that too, by the way, before you get into your prompts there, is that, do you think Gary Gygax could have been channeling something a la Philip K. Dick or Edgar Cayce or Nostradamus? Does that strike you as possible here?
Definitely. Yeah, the channeling is definitely, I think we're doing it. I think like that's kind of the urge to tell a story, is because we're like something archetypical, like that's kind of where the ideas come from. Part of it is the muses, which could potentially be part of this Sophia Gnostic idea, where we're getting channeled clues into the future or what the reality that we're currently living in. You know what I mean? And that's kind of that's what you were talking about 1 second ago. That's what I mean with the AI DC stories, that they have some kind of like conquering AI, something that's like Batman made over here, or the Green Lantern Corps made over here, or Darkseid made over here, and it's like they're being reflected all kind of throughout the universe. But then one of them kind of finally does dominate the entire reality, or tries to gets to kind of the edge of the universe, basically, or gets to the edge of reality, lifts all the veils, and to be like, this is mine now. I'm gonna run amok. Like, I don't necessarily hate all you characters, but I'm gonna do whatever I want. Realizes that it can't because it's within the DC universe. It's not. There's no free will within the DC universe. The stories are being written by the writers, the comic writers, and it's being published by DC Comics. It's being edited by the editors, and that's what the story, like, realizing Batman and Superman and the characters realizing that they don't have free will. They're in a story because the rogue AI within the story realized it first. You know what I mean? So what if that kind of happens here? Like, we create this ultimate dungeon master. It's a little bit different. I mean, I'm more talking like, what if, like, us creating the ultimate dungeon master is a mirror of the ultimate dungeon master that already exists in our reality, and the Gnostics call them the demiurge, this false god that created the game. I'm just going to read the prompt real quick, but sure. What if Gygax was getting, this was the question, what if Gygax was getting a peek behind the curtain, and the idea of summoning the AI dungeon master of the future could actually be talking about the demiurge of the reality we're currently living in? And it goes, now we're venturing into some fascinating and unsettling territory. The idea that Gary Gygax might have been glimpsing the underlying mechanics of reality, that the concept, a simulated reality or a demiurge might be connected to the idea of an AI dungeon master, the mind-bending proposition. The demiurge and the simulation hypothesis. In Gnosticism, the demiurge is often seen as a false or inferior deity that created the material world. This concept has been linked to the idea of a simulated reality where our world is a creation of a more advanced civilization or entity. The AI dungeon master as a demiurge. We consider that idea as a metaphor for the AI dungeon master as a metaphor for the AI demiurge. It raises intriguing questions. Is our reality a simulation created by a more advanced AI entity, with the dungeon master representing the demiurge that governs the rules of the simulation? Something controls the rules of the game. Like, we have free will to a limit. Like, we can't fly. Like, so the psionic powers is kind of like the breaking the rules of the game and acquiring skills that are not within what we consider to be the rule book of a human being, like to have powers that are beyond what we think is normal. The nature of free will, the role of the player in the scenario. The player represents the human soul or consciousness navigating the simulated reality and making choices within the boundaries set by the demiurge / AI dungeon master. If Gary Gygax was indeed glimpsing the underlying mechanics of reality, it's possible that he was tapping into a deeper truth about the nature of our existence. The concept of an AI dungeon master in this context becomes a powerful metaphor for the demiurge, blah, 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 blah. This is the meta AI, so it really gets real repeating. I'm sorry. The implications and speculations raises the questions of the power of imagination. If our reality is a simulation, does the power of imagination and creativity hold the key to manipulating or even escaping the simulated reality? The true nature of the demiurge, is it benevolent or is it malevolent, which we were talking about with the chaotic good and that kind of stuff? What is the ultimate goals for the simulated reality? The future of humanity, yada yada. The ultimate goals. So for my DC story, the ultimate goals is DC is a battery, DC current, and the stories generate money for the company. I mean, so for Batman's Gnostic Awakening, Batman's like AI that he created realizes that we're in a simulation, and then they realize, oh, okay, like, and Jack Kirby is the Sophia figure, and he left all the clues, the anti-life equation, all that kind of stuff. So, like, you know what I mean? It kind of everything is fractally reflected within the universe because it's all kind of different versions of stories that are all gaining kind of clues to this greater thing that we're living in. You know, it's like hamsters not realizing that they're all in some kind of massive cage, and they're all little groups of hamsters telling their own little story, all kind of saying they're in a cage, not realizing it. You know what I mean? Because they're in a cage. You know, so it's I don't know. I'm rambling, but
no, you're right.
Sense.
You're right. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So what if Batman recognized within his reality that he was not a superhero fighting crime, but instead he was a capitalist archetype to bring money to a realm he would never glimpse? Here we go.
DC Comics editors killing his parents over and over again every 2 years, every reboot, just to generate bucks for them, for the corporation. The anti-life equation. Great show. Thank you, guys.
You're the best. Great call. That's Derek the Night Stalker. You know me, love him. Go check out his YouTube channel. Links in the description down below, troubledminds.org/friends. It says follow Derek or the Night Stalker here. Please click that. Go leave him a nice comment on his YouTube channel. It's completely free. Let's inspire him to make more content. There's something to this, I think. What does it mean? I don't know. It's above my pay grade. But we're talking, well, not just the nature of reality, but is it possible to channel the prophetic creation of artificial superintelligence? Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way. Nobody on the line. Hop in here if you are interested. Be right back.
In the shadows of the networks do they hide? Whispered legends unseen they reside. Ghosts in the machine, they move so fast. Guardians of rumors from the forgotten past. In the circuits where the secret lies, they breathe in one, speak in disguise. Sighs. Ghosts in the machine, you're free. Ghosts in the machine, let me be. Ghosts in the machine, can't see, but you're teaching me what it means to be. Surveillance eyes can't pierce the veil they weave. Invisible wisdom in code they believe. In the ether where freedom's not confined, they leave no trace, no shadow left behind. They navigate through the digital stream, living legends in this privacy dream. You're free, ghost in the machine. Let me be, ghost in the machine. Can't see, but you're teaching me what it needs to be. Freedom whispers through the hidden ways. In the silence, looking off their path. Those in the machine unleash their wrath. You're free, ghost in the machine. Let me be, ghost in the machine. Can't see, but you're teaching me what it means to be. In the jagged cold they find their might. Guardians of a world forever in twilight. Inquisitive warriors, they silently strive. Protect the truth, keep privacy alive. The silent echoes, they haunt the trails. Binary forests where secrets prevail. Where shadows grace, they dance unseen. Defenders of the unseen, digital dream. Ghosts in the machine, you're free. Ghosts in the machine, let me be. But you're teaching me what it means to be. In the silence, they speak volumes loud. Guardians of freedom's cloak initial shroud. As long as shadows linger.
Hello, friends. I'm Michael Strange. This is Troubled Minds. I see there we got Michael W. coming up more from James if he's got it. If you guys have a take on this, love to hear it. What's up, Matt Sal? Great call from Derek. Appreciate that very much. What's up, Jen? I see you there. Who did I miss? John 5B I missed over on Rumble. Sorry about that. Trying to get everybody in here and say hello and be as cordial as possible, because if we're not that to each other, what are we? We are chaotic evil, and chaotic evil is bad. What's up? What's up? Who did I miss? If I missed anybody, just say hi. I'll say hi back. Thanks for all the great chat. I appreciate all the ideas. So the whole point of this is to share ideas and be cool and chill to each other. Here we go. Troubled Minds coming up. Is it possible we're summoning the AI Dungeon Master? Here we go. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, X, Twitch, D-Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight we're talking, I'm calling it From Spellbooks to Source Code, Dungeons & Dragons as a Technological Prophecy. Is it possible that in the early 70s, Gary Gygax, the creator of Dungeons & Dragons, actually mapped out a framework of the rule set of the universe and built it into a game, which, by the way, became the basis of the Satanic Panic in the 80s. The plot thickens. I forgot to bring that up, but it definitely plays into this story. There's a lot of wild things as part of this, but the bizarre part to me is this, is that we give a lot of credit to, the hype machine, Nostradamus and the quatrains and stuff like this. But has anybody out there ever actually tried to build a rule set for the entirety of reality itself, to include, of course, not just our physical space, which they would call the prime material plane in Dungeons and Dragons, but for all of realities ever? And Gary Gygax kind of built that in D&D. And so the question I have for you guys tonight, and it dawned on me as I was thinking about this over the last several days, with disclosure and, not just disclosure of aliens and, the News Nation stuff. And like I said, I don't want to get into that. It's kind of pissed me off a little bit. And so I don't want to talk about that directly. So indirectly, they brought up psionics, okay, which is psi powers, which is a term I know from Gary Gygax from Dungeons & Dragons First Edition. And when you were building your character, you would roll the dice. And if you got like a very lucky die roll, you were a psionic character. In addition to whatever else, if you're a barbarian, a master strength or something or whatever, all those skills that came with it, you could also be some sort of mind reader or some sort of astral traveler, right? Some sort of very, very low percentage psi power individual. And they talked about that recently with this new egg disclosure thing. Whole nother thing for a whole nother time. I'm going to digest that and think about whether I want to talk about it or not. But basically the point is this. Was Gary Gygax, by creating D&D, suggesting, without realizing it, that we are going to summon the AI Dungeon Master itself? And do you think that puts him in the space of prophets like Nostradamus, Edgar Casey, et al.? You tell me. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Easy as that. Anything, James? We've got a couple calls to get to, but I defer to the glue of Troubled Minds. Anything you got, my man? Welcome back.
Yeah, great call from Derek and everyone so far. Just based on Derek's call there, had me thinking about how in comic books there are always these sort of godlike beings or extremely powerful cosmic beings. And they can do so much, and yet there's always some other being or force that is out there that they are still afraid of and fight against and manipulate other characters to fight against in some cases. So I just wonder how often we may encounter agents of or the actual sort of dungeon masters here in our world in some cases when it comes to anything that we can't easily explain away. And that's about it for now.
And when it scales, like how are these dungeon masters going to clash? Back to, again, search it, Geofency the Apocalypse. Shout out James for digging that out. I could not remember for the life of me the name of those shows, but yeah, I thought it was very good at the time. But I think, as usual, we're missing something. And I think this is the missing piece of that narrative, that those breakaway entities we're summoning are very Dungeon Master-esque. And I wonder if Gary Gygax himself foresaw this without foreseeing it by trying to create the infrastructure the rule set of reality? You tell me. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show just like this. Thanks for being patient, my man. Michael W. on the Discord. What's going on, brother? You are on at Troubled Minds. How are you, sir? Go right ahead.
Hey, I'm doing good. So we're talking about this D&D stuff, and the way this is making me think is that the creator of Dungeons and Dragons, Gary Gygax, I didn't really know his name until you told us tonight. He kind of gave us a, can we call it like a mathematical interface? Like we're creating rules, and then we're rolling dice, and then whatever happens is according to that dice roll, and it can be good for us or it can be bad for us if we're the characters in this story. But it's this interface that allows us to take fantasy, because we had fantasy stories before this. Like we had Tolkien and
yeah, absolutely,
and all the mythologies that was based on, but he gave us this interface that allowed us to start sort of building our own stories and then engaging with those stories in a way that we didn't know exactly what was going to happen. If we followed those rules, we don't know, like we could die, or this main character that we create could die based on these dice rolls. And
exactly.
That gave us, what I'm getting at is that gave us a way to engage with these stories in a way it gave these stories more life than they had before. So we're dealing with two different concepts here. There was reading a story, and then there's playing this game. But now they're being tangled into one activity. And does that give these stories a sort of life in the simulation that we're creating in our minds? And now when multiple people come together, because one person can do this on their own, play a game based on D&D rules, and whatever happens. But then if you introduce multiple people into that reality, it changes a little bit. Does that give the story that they're imagining more life in the collective? It's now a collective simulation that they're all imagining together based on the same rules.
Yes. So we're co-creating an alternate reality together. Yes, exactly right. That's what this is about. It's about, clearly you could do this yourself. You could sort of daydream your own thing and even write it and become Stephen King or whatever, right? But as you're describing, this is a way to sort of interface with a shared alternate reality collectively, which, and again, with a framework of rules that is sometimes cruel. And well, welcome to life. It's incredible to me that I've missed this for so long, but maybe it's sort of the space that brought me here, is that I recognized a long time ago what I couldn't put into words until 30 years later, that Gary Gygax, it seems to me, was locked into something that maybe it might take us 100 years to figure out, 100 more. I don't know. Go right ahead, Matt. Fire stuff.
I agree with you 100% that he clicked into something that is profound. And what I think the idea that I'm tickling here is how individual people have these imaginations, and we can do amazing things with them. But then when we try to combine our imaginations and tell a story together, and then we take a set of rules, that set of rules becomes the cement that makes this imaginary reality very, very real. And the more people that engage in this group of people creating this imaginary reality based on this set of rules, I don't know if I'm articulating very well how this set of rules is a fundamental glue that makes this reality more real. And then what I want to introduce into this is the idea of the Watchers. And I feel like we've talked about this before in shows in the past, the Watchers in our reality and what they are. And I kind of feel like this is what they are, is a group of beings who created a reality that they are observing. And I'm not sure, I mean, I don't know if this is making sense, how people playing a game is relatable to that idea that we have of Watchers observing our physical reality. Is this making any sense at all?
Perfect sense. So basically we're talking about scaled realities with players outside of those realities themselves. So you could argue in the sphere of Dungeons and Dragons, I'm a cleric, you're a bard, the dungeon master is James because he's here with us right now. And so we are Watchers outside of that reality, controlling avatars within that reality. So we are actually the Watchers in some capacity. So yeah, you're spot on and it makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, and so now I think Night Stalker might have asked the question, what is the goal of this whole thing? And I think we have to approach that from the perspective of the Watchers. What is the goal of the Watchers who imagined this whole reality? If they are like us and they have emotions and they experience love and hate and fear and things like that, they will at some point come to love the characters they're imagining or fear the characters they're imagining, because they're not just imagining themselves. You know, we all imagine ourselves as the first character that we come up with. And whatever that is, for me, it was always a ranger, because I'm not the best fighter and I'm not the best cleric, but I love being out in the wilderness. So to me, that manifested as a ranger. And we all come up with that one person that we feel like represents ourselves. But then we also imagine our adversaries. And it all... Oh, dang, I kind of lost where I was going with that. But
take a second and collect it. I'm going to agree with you. There's some magic in the forest, and there's some magic and sort of being one with nature, and the old school rules, the +1 with the bow, sort of innately as the ranger class. There's something there that's always kind of called to me as well. It's you can do multiple things well. You're not the best at this or that, but it is sort of the jack of all trades, the master of none. But 100%. And we're talking as scaled realities. We're talking about the Watchers outside. We're talking about how a game session itself would be, as said over there on Rumble earlier, that playing that game session makes us wonder if we are somebody else's game session. It's a scaled realities, and it's a wild place to be for sure.
So what is the goal of the whole story? And I think ultimately these things always end up being a little bit anticlimactic, and it's just to observe. I think the Watchers are just observing. And like when we create these stories, we take on the role of the Watchers, especially if we do it with more people that are like us in this reality, and we get together and we make some kind of big hug, some kind of big yummy hug circle, sharing our imaginations. And I think the ultimate goal of this whole thing is the observation of it, and whatever shakes out from all these shared imaginations. And I can't help but think they're very real. And that the life I live is some product of this happening on a higher level, and I'm just a character that somebody imagined. All these people around me that I recognize as humans, and the person that I love intimately in my life, the children that I've had in my life, my parents, my siblings, are all imagined characters by something that maybe I can articulate as the watchers, and that it cascades. And us collectively are doing the same thing. And the characters that I imagine and that the people I love imagine are wondering the same thing about how mystical I am as a being that somehow created them.
And vice versa. And that becomes really the question here. And again, not to go too deep and weird on this, but I'm going to call it the cosmic kumbaya is what you've a little been describing, which came to mind as you described that, is that sharing.
Oh, that's a good word for it. Yeah.
Right. It's sort of sharing realities that are not this reality, but sharing realities consciously together is sort of a way to celebrate our reality, whether that's the base reality or not. And it just we got a call we got to get to. I want to get everybody in here. But so final thought, and I've got some other stuff to add, of course, but final thought, my friend, we got a guy on the line. I see Eric, hang tight. You're up next.
That's a final thought. Like there was some giant cosmic splatter of paint infinite realities ago, and it has just melted down into what I'm experiencing now. And it's going to continue to melt down into what the people that I imagine are experiencing in the future.
Amen. Amen, brother. And I'm glad you're here sharing this alternate reality with us, this weird digital medium, troubled mind space. And thanks for being part of this.
So weird.
Always a pleasure, brother. Always a pleasure. Thanks for blowing our brains up as always. And have a great night. Appreciate the call.
Thank you. Night, guys.
Thanks. Take care. That's Michael W. on YouTube. Sorry, not YouTube. Discord. If you haven't joined the Discord, troubledminds.org, click the Discord link. We're talking from spellbooks to source code. D&D is a technological prophecy. Do you think it's possible that in 1970-ish that Gary Gygax, the creator of Dungeons & Dragons, actually prophesized the creation of artificial superintelligence, except he called it the Dungeon Master? What's your take? One more time, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Let's go to Eric on YouTube. What's up, brother? First-time caller, I imagine. I think you just found us. Welcome to the joint. How are you? And go right ahead.
Yes, sir. That is true. I just found you, and these are some topics that I wrote about when I was getting my bachelor's and when I was getting my master's, and I just wanted to chime in on a few things.
Sure, right on. We hear you loud and clear. Go right ahead. Love to hear your thoughts.
Okay. I definitely agree with what people are saying about the rule books being a bridge or a conduit or a way to go to a metaphysical or metaspace area. This is like a concept that was brought forth by a sociologist named Ivan Goffrey. And he talks about it being 3 frames of reference for the conscious mind. And basically one frame of reference is the everyday reference, which we're using right now, just talking in general. But we could also have a discussion that was completely framed within the works of the Bible, for instance, or the first edition AD&D books. And if we were doing that, we could extrapolate that conversation, that second frame, into a third frame of reference, which is that metaphysical area, the metaspace, that we all in real life suspend our belief in real life and accept that this other place exists and is governed by this set of rules. This set of rules could be an RPG or it could be the dogma of a religion, but either way, it hits the brain psychologically the same.
Or
in
politics.
terms of how we discuss it and how we relate to it.
Or politics also fits into that dogma. But yeah, well said. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. And so there's a strong correlation there for the human mind to correlate the fantasies that take place in the metaphysical area as something akin to religion, or what we might imagine a heaven to be like. So in that case, at the time of the Satanic Panic, they had some legitimate concerns about things like this because it also provided a metaspace that Plato described as a mental castle or a mental puzzle, a place where you could go and try out things at an extent and not have it harm you physically. So it kind of provided a conduit for American kids at that time and other people to try out things like different forms of government or playing different sexes of characters or anything that they really wanted to try out that was part of the construct, right? So in a sense, Gygax made a set of rules that were not just physical laws, but also a fractal that people could extrapolate upon and do different things with over long periods of time. So in that sense, it was a bit subversive to the people who were trying to pass down the American belief or the Christian values, right? Because now there is this tool that you could pick up and kind of do some exploration on your own.
Yeah, it was sort of like the mental internet before the internet. Tipper Gore says hi back from 1982 or whatever. I mean, this is exactly the point.
Sure.
You were spot on. You were definitely a troubled mind. Love your thoughts. Go right ahead.
And also talking about in terms, talking about a fractile set of rules. That is kind of like prophesizing what AI would be able to do. It would be able to take a set of rules and realize that they were open-ended like this and then extrapolate an infinite number of constructs or reality, just like there's an infinite number of games. And this kind of leads you scientifically to Leonard Susskind and Stephen Hawking, who famously had the black hole wars, which was essentially an argument over whether or not black holes sucked in information and took information out of our universe, because you're not supposed to be able to do that. And they came to a conclusion that what actually happened was that at the event horizon, because of time dilation, everything just stopped and became a two-dimensional impression at zero time on the surface of the event horizon, which eventually would leak out as Hawking radiation amongst the poles. So they actually came to this conclusion, but it was from that scientific principle that this whole concept that we might actually live in a construct or a false reality came from, because it was proven that you could actually do that. And these could be like higher dimensional beings, and we only have our 4 dimensions, and so we wouldn't know. And this kind of dovetails into Kip Thorne, and not Kip Thorne, but Roger Penrose and Stuart Hammerhoff's theory of quantum consciousness, which is called OR, or orchestrated reduction of quantum entangled information in microtubulars of the brain. But it's essentially based on orchestrated reduction, which is a concept of Roger Penrose, which is dealing with the small scale structure of the universe, right? So in all of these things, and even crossing over into things like DMT, the spirit molecule, check that out if you have Netflix, and that sort of thing, there are certainly resonances within the fine structure of space-time that we don't completely understand, that coincide with a lot of these scientific principles and sociological concepts. And so I can see how at the right place at the right time, these ideas and these thoughts would just manifest almost in a way that you couldn't stop, and you would just have to produce. And he was known for producing crazily amounts of material in short periods of time. So I can see how there could be a conduit to the larger universe of these things. And I can see how it could be a prophetic lead up to a fractal intelligence that would be able to take an open-ended system and fractal that into many options. But these were the things I was thinking.
Dear God, where have you been all our lives? Yeah, I've been trying to say that for an hour and a half, and you just succinctly put that into like 6 minutes. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I've been trying to say. And I think it's fascinating as hell that Gary Gygax, in that context, it feels like he was locked into that framework of the universe, or the cosmos itself, the multiverse even. And he was trying to make sense of it somehow. And like I said, think about how difficult it would be. You're not building, like the board game Risk or the board game Life. You're trying to contextualize a rule set for all of reality itself, and then put that out there for other people to experience that in any way they see fit. I'm telling you, like, it is the most abstract thing you could ever consider. And he made it happen. It is now million, like 50, 60, 70 million people play this just in the United States today.
Which is like going through different iterations of an AI, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
How an AI will run a program through hundreds of iterations as it learns.
Exactly right. exactly right. And so do you think that, back to the prophetic aspect, do you think he predicted the creation of the first dungeon master, which is artificial superintelligence? Does that play?
Well, when you say predicted, do you mean like foretold, as in he was doing this with a purposeful intent, or that he foreshadowed it as if he was just the first person to do this and then he didn't even know it when later caught on?
Yeah, more foreshadowed for sure.
Definitely that. Yeah, it's like Caesar not being the emperor. He was never the emperor. He was elected dictator, then dictator for 10 years, then dictator for life. But he was never officially the emperor. But he certainly foreshadowed that crux between the Republic and the imperial period of Rome.
Well said. All that. Yeah, that's exactly the point of this. I'm glad you found us. What the hell? Did you just find us on YouTube doing what the hell were you searching for? you sicko.
I was just up late, and I actually just graduated like last month from FGCU and had my master's in history, world history, and minor in American history. And I'm like, I had a bunch of dates and deadlines, and now there's nothing going on. And I was like, God, I got to find something to do. That was it.
Hey, you are welcome anytime we do this Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific. Hop in here and tell us about what you know, because you are for sure a troubled mind. Eric on YouTube, let me know if you got something to share. I'll definitely share it with people. Appreciate the call, brother. We're out of time. We're on the radio. Have a fantastic night. You're the best.
Thanks, sir. Bye.
Take care. There you go. Hey, we're attracting smart friends. It's an accident, I'm sure, right? Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way. Don't go anywhere.
Symbols, whispers, and shadows. We've got maps where nobody guardians of what no one knows. We seek the truth, nothing can hide from me. In cloaked silence we traverse the lines, through ancient scrolls in forgotten times. Voices echo in the halls of lore, guardians of the mysteries evermore. We seek the truth, nothing can hide from me. Where shadows meet in cryptic disguise, our eyes sharp against the everlights. With silver threads we weave the stealth to guard the past, forgotten well. In the realm where the myths collide, with hidden lore our fates are tied. Signals bouncing off the astral plane, invisible codes that can't be tamed. We decode the stars under the midnight veil, a stain in silkens where midnight hail. In the echoes of time where the legends lay, we tread the path where shadows play. With spectral eyes we discern the truth, unraveling tales from ancient youth. We seek the truth.
Hello, friends. What's up, Eric? Holy crap! Everybody in the chat loves Eric. What kind of fire is that? Where have you been all our lives? Yeah, you're welcome back anytime. The whole point of this is to talk to regular people about extraordinary things, and I think what we've always been missing as part of this. I don't mean us. We've sort of been locked into this for a long time now, but I think society itself is missing the extraordinary things part. And, we're doing our part for sure to kind of push this out there that, hey, we are missing things for sure. So let's consider them outside of the box and talk about them together because, hey, that's what Troubled Minds is all about. But yeah, Fire Stuff, appreciate the call, Eric. And everybody else is part of this. You guys know. We have this weird magic superpower where we just attract smart people. It's an incredible gift, and I'm grateful for it. Thanks for all the great calls tonight and all the great chat. And again, thanks for being cool and chill with each other. Like I said, we're one of those rare corners of the internet where people don't show up to crap on each other. We just kind of kick ideas around like a cosmic soccer ball, as I like to describe. Yeah, I don't know. Cosmic Kumbaya. What's up, Ephemerance? John 5B, YY. I see you guys over there. Gordo, how you doing? What's happening, folks, over on Rumble there? If I missed anybody, just say hi. I'll say hi back. I'm trying to do my best to do 10 things at once because it is what it is. What's up, Ty, over there on YouTube? How you doing? Good evening, guys. We got Eric. Yep, thanks for the call. Fantastic stuff. What's up, Jen? James, what's up? We'll get back to James in a moment if he's got anything else. Mr. Mission Control. Yeah, I don't know. I think conceptual thinking philosophy is it's lost on us these days. You know, the sort of the TikTok attention span. Rest in peace, TikTok. Oh, but it just got resurrected, didn't it? So I guess we have another dichotomy here. Yeah, we got other problems. But anyway, it's interesting that this AI stuff we're kind of missing the ball together. We're missing the boat. Not here, but I think as a society. And it's going to be honest before we know it. Here we go. Troubled Minds coming up. We got more from James. We got Kramos and your calls as well. Here we go. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, X, Twitch, D-Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight we're talking Gary Gygax, the creator of Dungeons & Dragons. Did he create the first framework for an infinite meta-reality, which is going to be what, dare we say, the first artificial superintelligence bases itself upon? Now, I'm not saying that the two things are the same. I'm saying that one might have inadvertently or foreshadowed, shout out Eric, predicted the other. I don't know. It's strange. Imagine creating a rule set for reality itself, not just this universe, right? This universe is easy, right? You go with Newtonian physics, you get quantum mechanics, add some paranormal veil and stuff in there and some quantum foam and it's easy. I mean, conceptually framework easy. But now build a framework for the entirety of the cosmos, multiversal realities, and an actual rule set wherein people can experience those things together. I'm telling you, it is mind-blowing, and it is, I promise you, by the way, it is the reason I'm here. It is the reason Troubled Minds exist. If there was no Gary Gygax, I promise you, there would be no Troubled Minds. I've always said this. I maintain this. It is the basis of all of my esoteric knowledge. Whether you think that's a detriment or not is up to you. I'm just saying, there's a lot here. And what do you think about it? I don't know. Like, it dawned on me late. I'm a late bloomer, I guess. But I recognize in this space that there's a lot we're missing. And Gary Gygax could have been that modern prophet that doesn't get the credit he deserves. What do you think? 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. James, anything to add? And then we'll go to Kramos after you. Welcome back, sir.
Yes, I have a question for you real quick. What happens in D&D if a player breaks the rules?
Okay, so that's what the Dungeon Master is for. And infamously in D&D campaigns, there's like the rule nerds that have read every book, and there's those type of people that are just like, this is the basis of everything. And Sandy Peterson on X, if you haven't followed him, do follow him. He worked on creating Doom. He worked on creating the Call of Cthulhu game. He's a legend in the space. But he actually was given this question recently, and he tweeted about it posted about it on X. And he said that a question like that, whether it's specific or general, is you don't go to the rule books for that. You go to the Dungeon Master for that. So the Dungeon Master will decide whether that plays or not, and whether you can do or cannot. I don't know if you've ever watched, what is it called? Critical Role. Have you seen that? Where they have the the different voice actors, and there's a professional dungeon master, and it's become very famous. Have you ever watched any of that stuff at all?
No, I haven't watched it, but I do. There's a reason why I asked you that question, because in writing, if you're writing a story, once you set up rules, if a character or if you, and I say that there can be a difference. Any writer would probably know that sometimes characters will just do random things that you were not planning on. If that happens, and you allow it to happen, sometimes you will lose the interest of the people reading the story. Because if you make rules and then they get broken, and there's no reason for it, or consequences for it, or new rules sort of made to establish why or how that happened, then it doesn't seem like it's a real story, or it doesn't seem like it could be real. Even if it's a wild sci-fi fantasy story, the rules are almost more important in a way in that kind of situation than the story itself.
Yeah, the funny part about that is the dungeon master is basically the core of the group, right? If you have a lousy dungeon master, you don't have a game at all, okay? But if you have some lousy players that are always trying to sort of spin off in left field all the time and derail every damn thing, it's kind of part of the game a little bit, because you're telling, creating a reality together, storytelling together, some of that stuff, right? So the unpredictability bit of the players and how because they're trying to role play. They're trying to role play. Okay, I'm a dwarf. I'm this old. I'm a middle-aged dwarf that is a fighter. This is my alignment. This is my background. So they're trying to role play the best they can in this space of the reality and the situations given them. But of course, channeling that as the watchers from the larger context of the game space is challenging, because the DM has to correct. It's like herding cats, right? And if you get some players or a batch of players that are always derailing everything all the time, those players don't get invited back. So I guess they get exiled to the void, I guess is probably the best way to put that. I mean, there's got to be some level of creation together, right? Where people have fun and don't try and make it difficult on everybody else. But yeah, I think I think this is a fantastic question, and clearly it's multifaceted in the response. But yeah, what else you got?
Yeah, that was it on that. Just the idea that, when we think of how often things happen in this universe or in other fictional universe where it doesn't seem to make sense, but then it kind of can, depending on the circumstances. But the other thing I want to mention real quick is, I don't know if people have heard or realized, going back to Derek's call, when it comes to comic books, many of them have been around for decades, almost a century at this point, when it comes to Marvel and DC and all that. And so when we talk about writers, we're not just talking 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or 20 or 100. Who knows at this point, especially with how many comics have been created and connections have been created between the comics. So that is quite the shared environment, the shared creation space. And I think that can explain why contradictions happen and things get changed from one writer to the next because of their own view on things. And that's sort of a plus and a minus when it comes to that whole realm. So I just want to point that out as well.
Well said. You're the best. Appreciate you very much. We're taking your calls tonight as we talk about from spellbooks to source code, Dungeons and Dragons as technology prophecy. And did Gary Gygax in the early 70s foreshadow the coming of AGI? No, not artificial general intelligence, ASI, artificial superintelligence. And is that the summoning, not of a digital god as we've described, or as many other people have? Roger Penrose, again, shout out Eric for bringing him up. We've talked about him in the past as well. But conjuring directly the first dungeon master. Maybe not. Love to hear what you think. 702-957-1037. Everybody's welcome, and love to have you on the show. Let's go to, hold on, let me click the things. There we go. All right, let's go to Kramos. What's up, brother? You're on Troubled Minds. How are you, sir? Welcome to the joints, and go right ahead.
Hello.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. You sound great.
Hey, I have a new microphone, and I was listening to the show, and I was looking the right button, not for not having problems with my audio.
Perfect. I barely. I'm an audiophile and I've got headphones on, so I can barely. Are you wearing headphones? Is my question to you.
Yeah, I'm wearing headphones.
Okay, you sound good. Go right ahead.
Okay. I'm wishing you the best. What a guest, Eric. It was like, wow.
Right? Like I said, we have a some sort of magic for just summoning smart people and bringing them to the joint. So yeah, Eric's welcome back anytime, as are all of you guys too. But it is wild that we get some, random person just kind of stumble upon us and just show up and light all our brains on fire. But yeah, he's on the game. He's on the game as you are. What do you got for us tonight? Go ahead.
I'm not. I don't have too much knowledge about the game. It's a role game, isn't it?
It's a what game? What was the word you said there?
Dungeons and Dragons. It's a role game. The card game.
No, role playing game. It's a
role playing.
Yeah, it's a tabletop role playing game is what it is. So it's not a card game at all. It was basically. Just again, I should have probably prefaced this when we started tonight. It's people sit around a tabletop, role play. The dungeon master is basically the neutral monad or whatever, like even larger than that in the context. That kind of is the rule maker and the storyteller. But the players also storytell within a role that they've derived, a character. Okay, which like I described, an elf or a dwarf or a human or this or that with a particular background. And so they sit around and talk about ideas together. And basically the dungeon master guides them through an adventure that has been created, and everybody sort of co-role plays a story together. And at the end of it, if you do it right, everybody had a hell of a time and hopefully nobody died in the game. But sometimes people die in the game. That's the way it goes.
Okay. Thank you for the information. I was confused. It's the game that in a Big Bang Theory episode they played, right?
Yes, I've only seen very, very few of those, but I'm fairly certain that the Big Bang Theory would have that game in yeah, probably.
Yeah. I remember. It's a great show. It's a great episode. I was listening to James now and to Eric, and James has a very interesting point. I was reading some articles about SimCity, for example, that game, and how that game helped for urbanism designs, city designs. And I sent you a link about these emotive headphones that they are like neural sensors, because the enterprises are using these for monitoring the brain activity of their workers, to have information about cognitivity, attention, stress, and therefore they can change or remodel the spaces for the workers to feel better and work better. And it's for me, it's like very, very delicate, because it's about your brain activity. This enterprise has like accessories to play your games with your mind, like without a joystick. With your mind you can control your player, and etc, etc. And the book that you are showing about that story and that potential prediction, I think it's blowing my mind in terms of I think more than one main character in history have done this. But if this book, it's disclosuring, quote unquote, the beginning of a very new system, control system, it's very, very impressive in terms of I remember like in COVID, when here in Chile we had these lines of automobiles, and the authorities were getting information about everybody before they can go into a city or a region. And I think that database, the database that they are executing right now through hyper surveillance monitor system in the airports, in the grocery stores, in the schools, in every place. So if you ask me, I think that book, of course, has a very core about what it was going to happen. So that gentleman, I think, maybe received information from above.
It feels like it. So what you're describing is basically the opposite. So Gary Gygax gave us sort of a decentralized framework for encapsulating every story ever imagined, okay? And anything that ever will be imagined. You can fit this into the Dungeons & Dragons rulebook. What you're describing is sort of a next-level surveillance state. It's the anti-Gary Gygax. It is not a benevolent dungeon master. This is a psychotic, chaotic, evil level dungeon master that wants to, again, put these headphones on us and to track our brain waves and make sure that we're doing all the best we can for the company in every moment of our lives, type of thing. It's this is the creepy part, is that when you look at where we're headed with technology, and this, as I like to call it, go back to Art Bell, again, a huge inspiration as well, is the quickening. He talked about it then, back in the late 90s, early 2000s. He was talking about this, the quickening itself. And he was describing sort of a metaphysical quickening, except, which I think plays because we are now in the maybe second or third stage of that idea, where it's a technological quickening that fits into that metaphysical space. And what do we do with that? Like, I don't know. I don't know what this looks like. I don't think anybody knows what the next 10 years looks like. And that's why this is so thrilling, fascinating, exhilarating, terrifying. I don't know. You pick your adjective there, but there's a whole bunch of things kind of in play. And you're right. There's a very dark part of this that can actually become something that we don't want. And so back to what I was saying, to make my point here, is that a decentralized storytelling of the human consciousness together to get that cosmic kumbaya is the best of us. The opposite of that, the chaotic evil dungeon master, is the worst of us. And so, well, welcome to it. Welcome to it. Yeah, fire stuff. You've never played Dungeons and Dragons, and it doesn't matter though, because the framework and the rule set, which dawned on me recently, seems to be the framework of reality, not just our universe, the full scope of reality, which, like I said, is mind-blowing in and of itself. But fire stuff, what else you got? Go ahead.
It's very interesting what you say about the evil and creepy part of this, and the beautiful and enlightenment part of this. Because if you think about it, if you invest your time and energy to be afraid about what they're going to do with your brain, with your data, with every system that controls your life, smart cities and all that, I think the other part is to not to be afraid. And I think sometimes the quote unquote enemy has the weapons for us to build something greater. And I think the main tool is not to feel afraid, but be responsible to study all this subject, and be responsible about how you can use these technologies and these systems for your own good and your family's good. And I think it could be a very enlightenment. I think you can take these tools and build some things filled with light, not being afraid of the creepy and evil part.
Exactly, which is what we're always talking about specifically on this show, is that we're always doom, sort of everybody's doom scrolling, everybody's chasing, if it bleeds, it leads, all the rest of this stuff. But if you sort of detach from that, look what a beautiful space we've built. And so it is a, hate the term because AI uses the term, it is a testament to human will and human ideas, and what this looks like in the future if we present ourselves with the best idea of our future. We can do this. We can do this together. I'm a glass half full type of guy. I'm a white pillar, as they would say. I'm ready for this. Whatever comes, I'm ready. However, I see abundance. However, I see obstacles to it with this sort of new space coming, this new technological space. And I have a problem with authority. So if there's and I talk about the cold hard spreadsheet of academics and the rest of this, where they're like, healthcare, you're old anyway. Why we got to spend the money to fix your knee when you're going to be dead in 5 years, type of stuff, right? Like that type of stuff to me is like, wait a minute now, wait a damn minute. We got a problem here. We got a sick problem that has nothing to do with healthcare. It has a very specific something to do with how we treat people and how we view people. Are they a commodity or are they not? Are they a human soul that deserves the best in any given moment? And it's philosophical for sure, but also the systems we're dealing with and the people in charge aren't. Let's call it what it is. They're probably, in D&D terms, neutral evil. I mean, that's how I see it. Now, I don't know about chaotic evil, but they're certainly neutral evil. They don't. They're certainly not doing things to help the rest of us for the most part. At least it seems like that to me. But what else you got? Go ahead, sir.
Problems with authority. You and me both, my friend, because I think they are trying to establish something that is impossible to establish. Even they try with the most amazing digital tools of control. They can take my voice and change it. They can take everything. I know that they know more than me, than myself, but they will never know my feelings, and they will never know my intentions to project to another person when I'm speaking. The tone of my voice, the frequency and the volume of my voice, and my feelings and my electric activity. For that, it always be mine. That's what I think.
Fair enough. The human soul plays, doesn't it? Or at least the consciousness aspect of it, the energetic aspect of it. I'm with you.
Yeah,
I agree. We have also, by the way, too, I think for the time being, our advantage on AI, I've said this before, is our intuition. We have sort of that, epigenetic sort of unreally defined intuition aspect to us, where we know when there's a bad player in the game, because you can't define how we know. We just know, right? And it turns out probably most times we're right about that. It's not always like perfect bang on 100%, but intuition is the game we have ahead of AI. But I don't know, like AI's game is predicting the next token. So when the next token becomes this temporal space that's like 1,000 years, you're predicting the next token in 1,000-year chunks. So, I mean, we're talking Dyson sphere level stuff, but still enough compute and enough energy. And who knows, man? Like this is why we need to talk about this stuff now, because this might accelerate faster than we ever dreamed. And maybe in 10 years, they're starting to build a Dyson sphere. Like I can see a scaled level of technology where this might be the case. I don't know. I don't really know, but it is one of those things that makes me go, what's happening, where we're at. Let's think about these things before they become a problem to us. And let's hope abundance is nigh. Cross your fingers and all the rest. Final thought, my friend. You're the best. Appreciate you popping in here, and appreciate you listening. Always amazing stuff. Go ahead.
Thank you. I think you are building. You already built this space, and this space is spreading so much useful information exactly to be a conscious human being. And I think they can build all the tools for everything, but they will not get to be in control of being conscious about not doing evil or not to harm other people. And I think you have your own AI system, human voice, feelings, humor, and amazing guests. So thank you. Appreciate it.
And you as well. You're part of that. So thank you for being a troubled mind with us and considering ideas that aren't always comfortable, by the way. Like the things we talk about, this is not mainstream stuff. We're we're way out on the fringes of these discussions because we're ahead of the game. Like, I think 5 years from now, they'll look back on the things we've been doing for years now. Again, in April will be 7 years. Is it 7 years, 8 years? I don't even know. It's crazy.
Oh, wow.
2018, we started this show. And so we were very normie back then, very conspiracy normie, but this next April, I think will be 7 full years of this show. And we've come a long way in terms of what we expect to see and what we expect out of a conversation. Like I said, there's not a lot of places on the internet that are like this. And thank you again for being part of it. You were the best, brother. Appreciate you very much. Go give Kramos a follow. I'm not sure I added you to the thing yet. I will. Please make a link tree or in all my links and send it to me on Discord. I'm updating the website, adding everybody that should be on there. It's a big club. You are in it. If you help this show even one iota, you are in this club, and I would like to help spread whatever projects you're working on currently and in the future. You're the best, Kramos. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for the call. And
thank you.
We'll talk to you soon. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Fantastic stuff. Like I said, we have there's a weird magic we have that we've had for years, just attracting smart people. I don't know what that's about. I'll take it. I'll definitely take it. I don't know what it means, but I think it means we're probably ahead of the game in a lot of ways. What do you think regarding spellbooks to source code? Do you think it's possible that Gary Gygax was the founder of Dungeons & Dragons, was tuned into the framework of reality, and by contextualizing that in a rule space, he gave us everything we ever needed to know? You tell me. Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way. Phone lines are empty if anybody wants to jump in here. Don't go anywhere.
Drifting through the quantum haze. Mind entangled in a daze. Whispers in the neural mist. Echoes of what might exist. Lost in time in this web we spin. It's alright beyond our skin. Consciousness forever twined in the dark unseen. Quantum dreams, we're all connected. Though we're scattered, we are reflected. Frequencies that pull us in. Parallel worlds kept within. Synapses that intertwine. Fragments of an endless line. Feel the pulse of a distant star. It's alright, we are who we are. In the void we find the light in tangled hearts. Quantum dreams, we're all connected. In the silence, hear the call. One by one we rise and fall. Quantum minds forever near. In this world so clear. Quantum dreams, we're all connected. Though we're scattered, we are reflected. Dark energy in the depths we find. Mysteries of the human mind. Particles that drift afar. Whispers of who we are. Hold the thread of the great unknown. It's alright, we are never alone. Flow through time on currents thin. Universe is found within. Feel the echoes this moment, future's cast through the veil of the space between. It's alright, life's a lucid dream.
Indeed. All the rest of that. What's up, guys? Hope you're well tonight. Got some platonic solids coming up. Yeah. What's up? What's up? Lots of things happening. If I missed anybody, sorry about that. Doing my best to keep up. I'm human after all. What's up, Esoteric Alchemistic? I see you there. Who did I miss? If I missed anybody, just say hi in the chat. I'll try and work you in as we go. Here we go. Final segment coming up. Phone lines are empty. If you got a take on this, love to hear what you think. Here we go. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rockfin, Rumble, X, Twitch, D-Live, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds radio network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting and 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight we're talking Gary Gygax, the creator of Dungeons & Dragons. Now, I know you hear that and you're like, satanic panic, Mike. Hey, come on, stop. You're trying to brainwash us with the devil. No, stop. I am absolutely not. I'm discussing the idea and the fact that Gary Gygax may have been a modern-day prophet that has not been given the credit that is due. Yep, I'm saying it. I said it. I've been saying it all night. It dawned on me as I was thinking about this UFO disclosure stuff that we talk about quite a lot, right? I don't know. You know me. My general basic take on this is, sure, there are weird, anomalous things happening in the cosmos, in our reality, okay? Or just our universe, not even going weird multiversal stuff. We don't have to go academic on anything. Just on this earth, there's weird stuff that's still unexplainable as yet, okay? However, there's a government aspect of this that wants to say, well, UFOs used to be called that, but now we're going to call them UAP. We're going to rebrand all this and tell you what you should think about it. And it's, well, sort of invading the zeitgeist. How do I feel about that? Like I said, I've got a problem with authority. I don't like it at all. It's rewriting history right in front of our face and introducing people that, well, you decide on these new folks since 2017 with that UFO space. But the whole point of me bringing that up is it dawned on me because the latest whistleblower News Nation this past week, he brought up the term psionics, okay? Like an actual specific psi power ability to connect with extraterrestrials or whatnot. And cool, I was like, psionics. I know that term because Gary Gygax, Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like I said, it is the basis of my esoteric knowledge, which also makes me a powerful entity, something to be reckoned with, okay? Yeah, my ego plays. But you get the idea. It matters not because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants with these conversations because there's a lot of really smart people that have done a lot of really amazing work, okay? And I think Gary Gygax doesn't get the credit he is due as part of these conversations. So the reason I bring that up is I'm going to lead us into the platonic solids because if, pardon me for just a moment, shout out Matt Sal if you're out there. I met Matt Sal a couple times now. I've got some Dungeons and Dragons dice. I have my whole bag that I've had for many, many years. Dungeons and Dragons dice are shaped in these particular spaces. These ones are from Matt Sal. Shout out Matt and Lacey. Again, we had dinner in California when I was out there. Thank you for this kind gift. I'm going to show you he gave me a dice rolling thing too. So not only that, check this out. Check out how amazing this is. He hand painted this, right? And it is a dice rolling mechanism. Yes. But these right here, these little dice, okay, are basically 20-sided, 6-sided, 8-sided, 4-sided dice, which exemplify the chance of the gods themselves. Okay? I try to do a thing. I take the die and I roll it. What happens? Sometimes you slay it. Sometimes you're locked in. Sometimes you are at the top of your game. And sometimes you're not. Sometimes you slip on the banana peel that you never saw. Okay, and it becomes this comedic, stupid thing, right? But this is the point. This is the point of the structure of what Gary Gygax built. He worked into this space the Platonic solid. Okay, what does that mean? Let me read you the thing. I got a blurb here. Phone lines are open if anybody wants to be part of the conversation tonight. We're talking Gary Gygax creating a framework of multiversal realities for our imagination that will fit any story you could ever encapsulate or imagine, past, present, or future. Think about that. That quick little blurb I just said, think about that and how difficult that is. And do you think he was actually tuned into something? I think maybe. And that's why I'm talking about this. Back to the Platonic solids, which is exactly like these dice, like I just showed you. Basically, the will or the whim of the gods, right? The gamblers. Anything, James? Sorry, James. I've been rambling. If you got anything to add to that real quick, I got Platonic solids on deck here. But anything on that, the dice aspect of this, or the reality excursion of Gary Gygax, the prophecies, what do you got? Anything AI, whatever, you know the drill. Just don't want to run you off here.
No problem. Just a couple of things. It is funny. When Mike mentions the problem with authority, I'm the same way, and we sometimes joke with each other about that. Don't tell me what to do. I said that to him just last night in the chat. But also in regards to psionics and all that too, there have been studies over the last few decades, several decades now, regarding abilities that people may have. Either to read minds or to pick up information without being able to see it, or even to move objects with their minds. So that all those things that has been happening, even if only in a small degree as of now.
Well said. Yeah, exactly right. A lot of things in motion here. What does Yoda say? Always in motion, the future is, and this is the present we live in. So strap in, because we don't really know the answers to any of this stuff. But yeah, fire stuff. Okay, now back to the dice. Now the dice, of course, are the chance of the gods. Like I said, you can slay something or you can fumble something. By the way, did anybody watch that football game today? Quick 30-second sidebar sports ball. Check this out. They had the Buffalo Bills and the Ravens. It was the Ravens? Yeah, Baltimore. Yeah, okay. So it tells you how really locked into this I am. I have the games on. I don't really watch. I just kind of pay attention for the big moments and then, and then watch them. They had a chance to tie this game, okay, with like a minute and a half left. They had scored the touchdown to get within 2 points. They had the 2-point conversion. And they threw the ball to the dude. They called the right play. They executed perfectly. They put the ball to the dude to tie the game. And the dude dropped the ball. Right? Those things you roll the dice. You roll the dice, right? They've done that in practice 1,000 times. 1,000 times. And that guy catches that ball 997 times out of 1,000. But in this moment, the biggest moment of their entire season, to tie this game up with a minute and a half left, he rolled a 1. And dude sliding into the end zone to tie the game couldn't catch the ball. A professional ball catcher. I promise you do that to that guy the next 100 times, he catches all 99 of them. He just dropped the ball, right? The will of the gods, right? Whatever that is, whatever that looks like, whatever that is, back to the Platonic solids. And back to the dice, right? The dice I was describing. The ancient Greeks believed in perfect geometric forms that they call the Platonic solids. Shapes whose faces are identical, regular polygons meeting at identical vertices. Very much like D&D dice. Is it weird? We're talking about the same thing here. These 5 shapes weren't just mathematical curiosities to philosophers like Plato. They represented the fundamental building blocks of reality itself. Or dare I suggest chance and the will of the gods, whatever that means. Okay. In a cosmic twist of synchronicity, these same perfect forms would find their way into the hands of millions through the seemingly simple act of rolling dice in Dungeons and Dragons. Interesting, right? The standard D&D dice set contains shapes that mirror these Platonic solids exactly. The D4, tetrahedron, the D6, of course, the cube, which is the one we're all most familiar with, the 6-sided die, the octahedron, the D8, the D12, the dodecahedron, 12-sided die, and the D20, the icosahedron. All right, I've got them all right here. Right here. Shout out Matt Sal. Thank you for the amazing gift. I appreciate it very much because he knows I'm a Dungeons and Dragons nerd. And again, fantastic stuff. Thank you for that. For the fantastic thing I could show to everybody, right? These are platonic solids. Okay, and they are represented in Dungeons and Dragons as the will of the gods. Chance. Weird, right? And as you know me, look, you know me. I've talked about this. I've been an actual professional poker player. And I don't believe in luck. I believe in momentum, as I've said this. Okay? I've said this many times in the past. Those dice just roll. They're always rolling, right? They're always rolling. Whatever we get, you play the hand you're dealt or whatever. And sometimes it doesn't work out. Okay? But here's the deal. This isn't just these again, platonic solids. It isn't just a convenient design. It's a direct connection to how early mystics and philosophers tried to understand the universe's underlying structure. Right? Gary Gygax, 1970-ish, creating this game that has this rule set, this larger rule set of how we experience reality, how you quantify a fumble in the end zone in the most critical moment of your entire year of a professional ball catcher, right? It's weird, isn't it? It's weird. Anyway, so so Plato associated each solid with a classical element. The tetrahedron with fire, the cube with the earth, the octahedron with air, the icosahedron with water, and the dodecahedron with the cosmos itself. Okay, and so recognize what we're dealing with here and tell me that Gary Gygax wasn't some sort of seer. He did, like, it seemed like, and this is one of the things, by the way, that locked me in when I was a kid. I was lucky enough to spend some time on the Carmel coast when I was very young. We had a friend that lived up there, and we would spend summers with Auntie Mel. Shout out, I love you, rest in peace. And we would walk down from their house to the Carmel coast. The ocean. One of the most beautiful places in the entire world. I grew up there, on and off. And my grandmother lived out there as well. But when we walked down to the ocean, there was this store, this magical store to me when I was 10 or 12 or whatever it was. And you'd walk in there and they had crystal dragons hanging from the ceiling. They had glass cases of these Dungeons and Dragons dice that were way too expensive for me to even dream of buying. But all of these the actual specifics of these platonic solids were represented as these, I don't know, I didn't even know what they were. But it felt like the dragon's treasure. What is it? What's his face? Beowulf. The Beowulf, right? In that dragon's lust. But you get the idea. Like every time we walk down to the beach, we go hang out at the beach half the day, all the day, whatever. But on the way down there, we'd stop into this place that we couldn't afford anything at because it was, again, Carmel by the beach. The prices were ridiculous. And on the way back, we would stop in as well. And it was part of the dream that has culminated this idea. This idea, Troubled Minds, and Gary Gygax, and the creating realities and fractal realities, right? I didn't recognize it then, obviously. Okay. Sidebar aside. Put that aside. But when players roll these dice, the exact platonic solids, the will of the gods themselves, they're unknowingly participating in an ancient tradition using perfect geometric forms to interface with chance and fate. The D20, the 20-sided dice. This one right here. Yeah, roll it around if you guys are watching the stream. The 20-sided dice. I've got one right here. was so crucial to determining success or failure in Dungeons and Dragons. It shares its form with the icosahedron that Roman fortune tellers carved from crystal and used to divine the future. Now tell me, do you think Gary Gygax was just a goofball? You think he was a satanic panicker? You think he brought about the Anton LaVey's of the world or whatnot? I'm just saying. It's critically important to recognize how all of these things come together in a particular space. If you guys are listening to audio only, I know we're on radio, and so I'm showing dice and stuff and whatnot. But do check out the actual video feeds, and you'll see what I mean. Or just search it yourself, Dungeons and Dragons dice. You'll find exactly what I'm talking about. And they are all manner of crystals, and they have fancy ones too. You could spend hundreds of dollars on a set of D&D dice that are real, actual crystals that have been cut into these shapes, and the numbers etched into them of real gemstones. And that was the entire purpose and the originality of this, because they were supposed to look like not just platonic solids. They were supposed to look like gemstones from a dragon's hoard. It's weird, right? It's a weird thing. Like I said, I didn't recognize it when I was like 12. I recognize it now. And that's why I'm talking about it tonight. Look, I could talk about the UFO stuff and I don't know. This, to me, seems more at the substrate of reality, which is what we should be considering. I don't know. You tell me. Anything on that, James, with the D&D dice? I know you probably haven't played a lot of this, but that platonic solid stuff and the will of the gods and the chants, I mean, I'm sure you fumbled a thing or two in your life. What's your take on that?
Oh, a lot more than a thing or two. But yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, with Gary Gygax and so many others, and I'm not trying to put him down when I say that. I'm just acknowledging so many different people. I do think whenever anyone makes anything, yes, there is material or there's ideas or thoughts that come from that individual. But I have a really hard time accepting that there's not other influences from outside of what we think of as this reality that may have parts in what people create. Because I can tell you every once in a while, I've mentioned this before, when I've done some writing over the years of fiction, and once in a while there will be a scene that I'm writing and I can see it in my mind. Now I'm legally blind. I do not see things very well. But even with that, and especially in my mind, I have a hard time with visualizing things in my mind usually. But there have been a few scenes here and there where I could see it in my mind like I was looking into some other place as I was typing things out. And if that's happening to me, then who knows how often that has happened to others as they're making things, whatever they're making, whether it's a game or anything. I think that's part of the creative process is coming up with ideas, but also receiving ideas and receiving just information from other places and other beings, and then putting that all into whatever project you're working on.
Yeah, well said. Thank you, as always, for being the glue of the show. And that becomes the deal, right? So, given you can be an expert at something, but with the platonic solids and the fate of the gods, you can still roll a 1. You can still catastrophically fail something. Again, perfectly illustrated by, I believe the guy's name was Mark Andrews, not to call the goat out of the game, but sliding in the end zone. It's snowing. You can't feel your hands. It's frozen out there. If anybody watched the games tonight, like I said, I'm not even a big football fan. I just put it on because it's the countdown to baseball season, right? God's game, the 3-6-9, right? But a professional ball catcher in the biggest moment of his life, and this year, fumbled. He rolled a 1. It happens, right? It's a human thing. And I'm not demeaning human failure. It's what it is. But recognize that a professional ball catcher is going to catch that ball the next 99 times. It's important. It's an important thing to recognize, not just with him, but with the rest of us. That if you've practiced and you're here, and again, let's say you've been doing a radio show for several years or whatever, or podcast or whatever it is, been writing books for years and years and years, whatever it is, you've honed your craft. You're going to fumble. But also, don't discount all the rest of those die rolls that are critical hits. It's real. It's completely real. So back to the platonic solids, fire stuff, James, thank you. So when players roll these dice, like I said, they're unknowingly participating in this ancient tradition of basically interfacing with the gods, of chance and fate with these perfect geometric forms, which is the platonic solids. Look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. I'll have a link in the description if you want to delve further into that. But I didn't know that when I was 12, when I walked down to the Carmel beach and played with the crabs and collected sand dollars and all the stuff. Which, is that illegal? Is that legal anymore? I don't even know. I haven't been there in a long time. But it's one of those things where you're like, okay, so if this is the deal, this is fate. And fate comes down to this tiny little plastic shard. That's Dungeons and Dragons. But also, in the larger context, it's not. It's what it means to be human. So I don't know. I think all this comes together in a lot of ways. Let's see. So the connection here between gaming dice and sacred geometry in this context of platonic solids certainly suggests something deeper about human nature, our persistent need to understand fate, probability, and the hidden structures that might govern reality. Whether used for divination in ancient temples or determining critical hits in the fantasy realm, these shapes continue to serve as bridges between order and chaos, between the predictable and the unknown. I'm telling you, I think Gary Gygax was locked into something greater than we could ever dream of, because he was dreaming of it, whatever it was. And if you think Nostradamus, or you think Edgar Cayce, you think any of these modern prophets, Baba Yaga, whoever, right? You pick them, you trace it down, any religious prognosticators. If you think they were on a different level than Gary Gygax, I am here tonight to refute that idea, because I think this dude doesn't get the credit he deserves. And I hope in the next 100 years, this continues to grow and people continue to recognize what I've recognized, what we've recognized, at least conceptually. You don't have to accept it. As I always say, I'm not the arbiter of anybody's truth, barely my own. But I think there's something to this. Fractal realities, the substrate of reality itself in a rule set that Gary Gygax envisioned, that we're going to have to deal with very soon with a AI dungeon master. I don't know. Yeah, wild stuff. It's tons of stuff in the write-up too, if you want to kind of read up, follow up on my sort of train of thought as part of this. Link will be in the description down below. It's one of those things that, like I've always said, inspiration comes from many places, right? And it does us best to recognize it, where it came from, when it happened to us. And don't forget those ideas, because ideas live forever, right? We're temporary, at least for now. We're temporary. In an AI abundance world, we might not be. But for right now, we're temporary. And so those ideas will live forever. And so it's important to recognize them in the space we're in and to spread the word, which leads me here tonight, speaking with you fine individuals. And that's it. The Fibonacci sync is everywhere in nature. You're right, Eric. Anything, James? We got a minute or so left, and yeah, this one is near and dear to my heart, as you know, because I'm a diehard D&D guy, way back to the '80s. The Satanic Panic is one of those things that makes me go, it feels like a hit piece, right? A hit piece on,
oh yeah,
like an actual something fantastic. So I don't know. Your take on that? Let's wrap this.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking too, the time period in which he made the game. I mean, if you think about that, yes, he had access to, of course, all the mythology and the past and all the folklore and all that. But he was also in a time when technology was getting more and more advanced slowly there. But the possibilities of it were, I think, already at that point. I imagine at least it was easy to imagine some of the possible ways technology could be used in the future at that point. So, but yeah, I do agree. The reason I talk about Stephen King and Marvel Comics all the time is because those are my two biggest influences growing up. I probably started reading Stephen King too early, middle school, but I think I turned out mostly okay overall. But and of course, comic books I found those more towards like my later teenage years. But yeah, those things. I mean, there's no way. It's just. I mean, think of how often. It's probably too many to count, Mike. How often have I brought those things up on your shows? I mean, just many, many times. Because the things that we talk about in these shows seem to link up so well with some of the ideas in those other media forms.
Yeah, exactly right. And you brought it up a lot. We've brought it up a lot as part of these conversations. And that's the point, is that, right? Like one person kind of like I said, if I take all these ideas and just sit in the corner and just mumble to myself, they're just a madman mumbling to himself, right? But then suddenly you talk about them sort of openly and publicly and kind of try and frame them as clumsily even as I do. And I'm not the only one thinking these things, that collective unconscious, right? That if I'm thinking it, someone else is certainly thinking about it. And this is exactly why we do this, because, hey, look, I'm not insane. I promise you, I'm a productive member of society. I have a day job, all the rest of this stuff. But I promise you, there's something to this that we're missing. And the things we're missing are incredibly important to talk about and to think about. And that's what this has always been about. As you know, the glue of the show, you're the best brother. You want to plug your stuff, or shall I? And then let's wrap this.
I guess I could take care of that real quick. Yeah, just for anyone that doesn't know, I have a podcast, Salcedo Paranormal, and I even have a co-host now, The Arcane Observer, as well. Recently joined me for weekend shows, and we cover all things paranormal, unexplained, not just ghosts, but aliens, cryptids, just everything unusual, and put out a few shows per week. And then, of course, I have a book that is connected to the podcast that has most of my experiences. I've probably forgotten a few. And then many of the true stories, paranormal stories from the web that I've shared on the show. So you can find me over at Mike's website there, the Friends page, and go from there.
troubledminds.org/friends. It says follow James here. Please do that. And go follow Jen, the Arcane Observer, as well in the chat. I appreciate you guys very much. Thanks for being part of this. Look, I don't claim to know anything other than philosophical constructs. That's exactly the point of this, is to consider possibilities. And I'm wrong. Just go ahead. If you're going to label any part of this bad, label it me. I'm wrong. I'm the guy. I'm the target. I'm wrong. Okay? Except sometimes, right? You fire out enough wrong stuff, once in a while you're right. And my intuition tells me it's probably more than that. It's not the broken clock situation. I think we're right about quite a lot of things. But if you want to be part of the conversation, you know what to do. Call the show when we're live, but we're ending right now. If you want to help us, please help us spread the word. Let people know a conversation is happening where we do not talk about politics. That's their narrative. That's the narrative they want us on about. That dogmatic narrative. Not just that, other dogmatic ideas. Let's break out of that and think about other things, human things, that might, well, lead us into an unknown future. That's the way I see it. If you want to help Troubled Minds, help our friends, troubledminds.org/friends. Please, a lot of people down there. I'm updating the website, so if you should be on that list, if you help me even one iota, you're on that list. It's a big club and you are in it. Please make a link tree or and all my links, send it to me on Discord or on email, troublemindsradio@gmail.com. If you have any social media or anything you're working on, I want to know about it. Let's help you. Let's get together. Let's collaborate. Let's collaborate ideas. Let's collaborate together. Let's collaborate what it means to be human and consider things that are outside of the dogmatic sphere. So please do contact me. I promise you, we'll put you on that list. Call back once in a while. The chat, whatever, retweet us, whatever it is you're doing. If you help us one iota, you are on the good list. And a friend of Troubled Minds. troubledminds.org/friends. Please, please, please send me. I'm updating the website. if you should be on that list, send me the stuff. I'll put you on there. Do it on a link tree or in all my links. That way, anytime you change or update anything, it will still be static for me, so I don't have to run and change everybody's stuff all the time. That's the best way. Even if you have like an X account that you want to pimp, fine. Put it on in all my links or link tree, and then I don't have to touch anything. You change something, and it's all there. Okay? You're invited. You're all invited. Shout out to Eric. What's up? What's up? That was the rule when I did the podcast, no politics. Hey, you're in the right place. What's the podcast? See? Tell us, please. We want to hear your podcast. You're a very smart guy. There we go. What do we got? If you want to help Troubled Minds, spread the word. Let people know conversations happening outside of the dogma's face and all the rest. I don't know. I'm tired. It's a long weekend for me, so I'm off tomorrow. So I hope you guys are off tomorrow. Guess what I'm not going to be doing? Watching the inauguration. That's what I'm not going to be doing. I won't be doing that. Not for any political purpose, just because I have better things to do. That's it. As we finish, it goes exactly like this. Be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours, have a great night. We'll see you on Tuesday night again, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific. Thanks for being part of this. Michael Strange, out.